Chapter 71 Destined to Live Forever, Qingchan's Bedtime, Bones of the Great Saint. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This kind of master. Chiyue's eyes brightened, her heart stirred with excitement. At this moment, Qingchan had completely lost her usual stern and cold demeanor. She looked like a fairy fallen into the mortal world, tainted by the secular atmosphere, no longer the lofty sword immortal, but this, instead, added a unique charm. The previous Qingchan, although extraordinarily beautiful and exuding a holy and cold temperament, was too ethereal and elusive, like a celestial being in the heavens, unattainable, but the current Qingchan had fallen into the human realm. With the possibility of being touched, this appearance made Chiyue feel a little dizzy. And fascinated. You. Just as Chiyue was lost in her thoughts, Changsheng's slightly teasing and playful voice came. In the future, Qingchan will be your younger sister. You have to call her sister, you can't forget. Changsheng's tone carried a hint of seriousness. This was not a joke. Qingchan had offended him before. Naturally, Changsheng had to punish her a little, and this was his punishment. Unchangeable, of course. Changsheng's perverse taste was also involved, but the life of a cultivator, how long was it? Changsheng's future time was even longer, unimaginably long, destined to be eternal and immortal, enduring through the ages. Naturally, he had to maintain a youthful mindset. Upon hearing this, Chiyue was dumbfounded. Was this really serious? Do I really have to call her younger sister? Chiyue cautiously glanced at her master and found that her pretty face had turned completely black. She exuded a terrifying aura all over her body. Under the suppression of the power of the prohibition, Qingchan couldn't even erupt at this moment, let alone resist. She could only grit her teeth in anger. You should call each other by name first and see how it sounds. Changsheng found this scene interesting and casually said while holding a teacup. Chiyue's face stiffened and her scalp tingled. Qingchan, who was beside them, was also in a bad state. Her eyes were faintly turning red. The series of events she encountered today made her feel more ashamed and humiliated than the past hundreds of years combined. At this moment, even Lin Miao couldn't bear to look directly at it. Losing the previous schadenfreude, however, although there was no schadenfreude, a strange feeling rose in her heart. She also wanted to see that scene. It seemed quite exciting. Beside them, Wang Shi, dressed in fairy clothes like a goddess, blinked her beautiful eyes and watched attentively, afraid of missing any scene. Facing the gaze of the others, Qingchan tightly clenched her slender palms, her face filled with humiliation, unwillingness, and intense shame and anger. As the esteemed feather sword saint, when has she ever suffered such humiliation? If possible, she would rather die to avoid Changsheng's humiliation. Gulu.Chiyue was also very nervous, her beautiful face wrinkled, her heart pounding, feeling both scared and slightly excited, as if breaking a taboo. Sister. After struggling for a long time, she finally whispered a few words. These few words were like a giant axe that opened the heavens, and like a sword that broke through the ages, directly stunning Qingchan in place, causing her sword heart to violently tremble. Her cold and beautiful face turned red, and her jade-like skin was covered in countless small bumps. Countless thoughts surged in her mind at this moment. She didn't understand what she was thinking, only chaos filled her mind. Like a mush, Wang Shi and Lin Miao beside her were also stunned. Did she really say it? This was a scene that broke the norms and taboos, letting their hearts race. They almost shouted out loud. I actually, really shouted out loud. Chiyue's heart was also in chaos, feeling conflicted and excited, as if something had been broken. Qingchan, it's only you left. Changsheng leisurely sipped his tea, his gaze flickering as he looked at the stunned Qingchan, calmly reminding her. Qingchan remained silent. She wanted to refuse, but she couldn't resist under the power of the restriction. Sister. After a long time, her lips slightly parted, stammering as she slowly uttered a few words, very weakly. These few words seemed to have exhausted all her strength. As soon as they were spoken, her expression became dejected, her eyes lifeless, as if she had been broken. I still can't stimulate her too much. Changsheng glanced at her, his heart slightly chilled, knowing that she had reached her limit. If he continued to stimulate her, there was no guarantee that her sword heart wouldn't shatter and break directly. In that case, it wouldn't be what Su Changsheng wanted to see. After all, compared to a fallen mortal Lu Qingchan, he preferred the aloof and cold transcendent sword Immortal Lu Qingchan. Let's stop here for today. Thinking like this, Su Changsheng put down the tea in his hand, his expression calm as he spoke. Not only were Yu and the others surprised by these words, Lu Qingchan also immediately looked up at Su Changsheng, her eyes filled with disbelief. This man, whose evilness was comparable to the king of the heavenly demons from beyond the realm, he let her go just like that. What, do you still want to continue? Seeing Lu Qingchan's shocked expression, Su Changsheng raised an eyebrow and said with some amusement. I never said that. Lu Qingchan immediately withdrew her gaze. She seemed to have regained her composure, her sword heart stabilizing once again, her tone coldly saying, in the end, she was still an extraordinary anomaly, becoming a saint king in just a few hundred years, comparable to a young supreme. Her sword heart was extremely stable. If it weren't for the successive shocks she had received, she wouldn't have been so out of control. Seeing this scene, Su Changsheng nodded secretly. This is the attitude that a peerless powerhouse should have. However, in this case, he would be more interested in training her. Qingchan, your next task is to deal with the 3 top-grade forces. Su Changsheng looked at Lu Qingchan and instructed. Lu Qingchan's expression was cold as she responded lightly, since the fact has already been determined and cannot be reversed, she will try to temporarily accept it and vent the humiliation she suffered today on the saints of the 3 major forces. Lu Qingchan's eyes seemed to be burning with anger. As for Yue, since I have promised to give you the best resources, I will not go back on my word. I will assist you in activating your physique. Su Changsheng looked at Yu and said softly. Physique? Upon hearing this, Lin Miao and Wang Shi looked at Yu in surprise, pondering in their hearts, no wonder Lu Qingchan, this saint king, would accept her as a disciple and even come personally to help her dissolve her marriage. It seems that she possesses some kind of peerless physique. Thank you, husband. Yu nodded, her face blushing. She is a relatively traditional woman. Since she has already settled her marriage and calls him husband, she has accepted Su Changsheng. Lu Qingchan's face was originally cold, silent like a peerless sword immortal. But seeing Yu's shy appearance, she almost broke character. As a result, she had been busy for a long time, not only failing to save her disciple, but also implicating herself. Lord Changsheng, I would like to first understand the situation of the 3 major forces. Lu Qingchan became more and more angry in her heart. After struggling for a long time, she couldn't help but speak up. The atmosphere here is too awkward, and she is afraid that if she continues to stay, Su Changsheng will continue to make some devilish demands. Oh. Alright, thank you for your concern. Su Changsheng looked at her with surprise, understanding her thoughts, but still nodded with a smile. However, just as Lu Qingchan let out a sigh of relief and began to walk away, a soft voice floated over. Remember to come to my chamber tonight. Lu Qingchan stumbled for a moment, then walked even faster, disappearing in an instant. My lord. What should I do? Seeing her master leave, with only Lin Miao, Wang Shi, and herself remaining, Yu couldn't help but feel anxious. In the past, at this time, she would either be undergoing arduous training or completing missions outside, slaying fierce beasts or enemies. She had never before spent so much time alone in a room with a member of the opposite sex. Especially since this member of the opposite sex was her future husband. Well, Yue, come here. Let your husband examine your body. After pondering for a moment, Su Changsheng revealed a brilliant smile in Yu's somewhat uneasy gaze. Ha! Yu was dumbfounded, but under Su Changsheng's command, she had no choice but to walk over with a flushed face. Indeed, Su Changsheng was examining Yu's body, wanting to know which of the 2 constitutions she possessed. However, at first, it was still serious, but gradually, the atmosphere became twisted. In the end, even Lin Miao and Wang Shi suffered unjust treatment and were pulled in blushing faces. In the end, Su Changsheng also learned about Yu's constitution, the Taishe sword body, which was related to the great Tao of time. 3 days later, at the Wang family, boom. In the distant sky, teleportation arrays appeared one after another, and powerful individuals from the sea star emerged from them. Each one exuded a terrifying aura and a formidable bloodline. These individuals came from different forces, namely the Ling family, the Blood God sect, and the Bone God sect. The experts from the three sects were all different in their own ways. The disciples of the Ling family are the most normal, they just wear the Ling family's attire. The aura emanating from them is very pure and vigorous, without any strangeness mixed in. On the other hand, the Blood God sect and the Bone God sect are much more bizarre. They wear clothes adorned with blood and bone decorations, and their aura is chaotic and evil, as if they were demonic beings from outside the world, making people feel fearful. This is exactly the embodiment of demonic cultivators. Boom. As soon as these powerful individuals appeared, they stood in the void, surrounding the Wang family's ancestral land. A terrifying aura surged and impacted the entire ancient city, causing the cultivators of the Wang family and the countless mortals to be filled with fear. Even the Wang family members were horrified. Boom. 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 At the same time, among the three forces, 5 saints successively emerged, each exuding an overwhelming holy might, fiercely attacking the Wang family's holy formation. With just one confrontation, the Wang family's holy formation trembled violently and almost shattered. Wang Yu, come out. Among the 5 saints, the red-robed old man from the Blood God sect spoke, his eyes flashing with a sharp light as he shouted, boom. A shocking sound wave resounded for thousands of miles, shaking the earth and terrifying countless cultivators. With 5 saints, the Wang family was doomed this time. Humph, Wang Yu, this old guy. We agreed to give him some time to decide, but after so long, he still hasn't given an answer. Does he really think we're afraid of Su Changsheng? Another saint from the Blood God sect spoke with a cold snort. Su Changsheng may be powerful, but he is only a saint king. On our side, we have the presence of Lady Bone. I believe he wouldn't dare to act arrogantly towards her. The saint from the Ling family also spoke, laughing. He looked towards a woman from the Bone God sect, showing a look of awe. She was a beautiful woman, dressed in a thin, gauzy gown, with most of her skin exposed. There were strange green patterns on her body, face, and other places. She sat on a white bone lotus platform, with terrifying death and evil chi surging around her, like real dragons. In her hand, she held a golden skull emitting a holy aura. This was the skull of a Buddha. Beside her, a figure shrouded in black mist stood, its appearance unclear, but it was obviously a guard for the woman. This figure is also a saint, a powerful member of the Bone God sect, but it takes orders from the Bone Lady. Hee hee. Don't flatter me, I am just a saint. That immortal saint, on the other hand, is a saint king. I can't afford to provoke him. Upon hearing this, the Bone Lady couldn't help but chuckle, her laughter both piercing and enchanting, carrying a bewitching charm. Hee hee, lady, you're being modest. Everyone knows that you are favored by that esteemed person. If it weren't for you, we wouldn't dare to attack the Wang family. That the first Blood God sect saint to speak up had a tone full of flattery. Hee hee hee. I don't have that much charm. This is just the orders of the higher-ups. The higher-ups' cultivation technique is at a breakthrough stage and requires the blood of billions of living beings. Additionally, some saint corpses would be helpful, especially if they are saint kings. That the Bone Lady giggled coquettishly. Hearing this, several saints felt a chill in their hearts. Understanding the other party's intentions, they wanted to hunt down that immortal saint. I bet that immortal saint's skull must be quite good, much better than this bald donkey's skull. The Bone Lady said again, holding up the golden skull in her hand, her tone dissatisfied. Seeing this, the brows of several saints twitched violently. They all knew the origin of this skull. It belonged to a Buddha of the 9th heaven, a saint who had come to travel the true saint continent but ended up encountering the Bone Lady's mischief. They had wanted to suppress her. With the cultivation of that Buddha saint at the 9th heaven, it would have been a piece of cake to suppress the Bone Lady at the 3rd heaven, but the result was unexpected. That Buddha saint died, and his bones became the spoils of the Bone Lady. This was also the reason why everyone feared the Bone Lady so much, because behind her stood a great saint named Bone Great Saint. Ha ha ha, once the Bone Lady takes action, that immortal saint will surely be beheaded, and his skull will be the spoils of the lady. That's right, what's a saint king? In front of a great saint, they're just ants. We will follow the lady's command, point one by one, the saints all praised and complimented, causing Lady Whitebone's face to reveal a brilliant smile, very enchanting. Among the Wang family, Qingchan stood with a sword in hand, her gaze icy and fixed on the several saints outside the formation. With her strength, even within the Wang family's formation, she could clearly hear the conversations of the few individuals outside, and a surge of killing intent welled up in her heart. Although she disliked Changsheng and felt resentment towards his humiliation, she had to admit that his strength was indeed terrifying. A person like him, if he were to be killed, it should be by her hand, not judged so casually by some weak trash. Humph, that bastard Changsheng. Thinking of that man, Qingchan also recalled the night 3 days ago when she was called by Changsheng to serve him, a night that completely broke down her defenses. Although they didn't reach the final step, Changsheng's variety of techniques subverted her imagination. Not only did Changsheng make her hold the sword with both hands for him, he even wanted her to swallow it. Thinking of the memories that caused her sword heart to collapse, Qingchan felt anger and resentment in her heart, and an endless killing intent rose towards the saints of the three major forces. None of these people today should even think about leaving. Master, should we go out and meet them? On the side, feeling the killing intent emanating from Qingchan, the Wang family saint said with some trepidation, at the same time, secretly admiring, it was worthy of being an eternal saint. In just a few days, they had subdued this cold and proud peerless sword immortal. Qingchan said lightly. They're coming out, soon. Outside, when several impatient saints wanted to directly break the Wang family's formation, they saw the Wang family saints and others leaving the formation, causing their eyes to brighten. Good, they're coming out, the saints of the blood god sect laughed grimly. They had already decided to slaughter the entire Wang family. Such a beautiful woman, she must be killed. On the side, Lady Whitebone's beautiful eyes turned cold when she saw the extraordinary and stunning Qingchan, and intense killing intent surged within her. Wang Yu, I'll give you a chance. Surrender to us, and we'll spare your Wang family. A saint from the Ling family stepped forward, revealing a sinister smile. Boom, but in the next second, a terrifying sword aura erupted. Chapter 72 Whitebones the Great Saint arrives, Changsheng teases her, and Qingchan panics. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Boom. Terrifying sword intent erupted, like an unparalleled divine sword spanning the heavens and earth, surging with momentum, an incredibly frightening power, like a roaring true dragon. The heavens and earth trembled. The entire Wang family ancient city, including this 100,000 li of land, was enveloped in an unparalleled sharpness. Terrifying momentum surged, crushing towards the powerful figures of the three forces. Pu. It was like a great purge. Many powerful figures from the three sects, from semi-saint level experts to ordinary empty void realm cultivators, all exploded in screams, their primordial spirits shattered inch by inch. They couldn't resist at all. This was a saint king who had reached the realm of sword Dao, with battle strength that could contend against a half-step great saint. The aura of such an unparalleled expert, once unleashed without restraint, was enough to cause the collapse of millions of li of land and kill a large number of non-saint level experts. The scene before their eyes was the best example. Thousands upon thousands of experts were completely wiped out. Of course, Qingchan also controlled the power well, only suppressing the experts of the three major forces, without affecting the boundless land. Moreover, within the ancient city, many great formations were revived. Various array patterns appeared, radiating brilliance that soared into the sky, jointly resisting the residual shockwaves of the power. Pu. The saints of the three sects didn't have time to be furious either. Under the sweep of this terrifying momentum, they also suffered intense impacts. Their powerful saint bodies trembled, and even many small wounds appeared. Those were injuries caused by the invisible sword intent. A sword Dao Saint King. How is this possible? Why would the Wang family have such a powerful figure? Wait, you are Feiyu Sword Saint, the Saint King from the Shenshao sacred land? The saints of the three major forces exclaimed in shock. Then, they seemed to have discovered something. their eyes became extremely bright, looking at Qingchan in shock, their divine senses trembling intensely, extremely astonished, especially the saints from the Blood God sect and the Ling family. They were scared half to death, wishing they could turn around and run away. The Sword Saint of Feiyu, the sacred land of Shenshao. This person's origin is even more terrifying than Lady Whitebone. Lady Whitebone is only the concubine of the great Saint Whitebone. Although she is favored, she is ultimately not a great saint herself, but the Sword Saint of Feiyu represents the terrifying power of the sacred land of Shenshao and several great saints behind it. Even if they were to face such powerful individuals, let alone them, even if the great Saint Whitebone were to come in person, they would have to give some face. It's actually the Sword Saint of Feiyu. Lady Whitebone's heart trembled violently. It was clear that she also recognized Qingchan and felt jealous and unwilling, but she also knew very well that even the great Saint Whitebone would not easily offend the sacred land of Shenshao, therefore, she could only lower her head. This senior, I am the concubine of the great Saint Whitebone. I don't know if Wang family is a force protected by the senior. Please forgive us, we will leave now. The power of the divine energy surged within Lady Whitebone as she resisted the pressure with all her might. At the same time, a smile appeared on her face as she spoke to Qingchan. Please forgive us, Sword Saint Feiyu. We will leave now and never offend Wang family again. Yes, we can compensate the three sects. Please forgive us, Sword Saint Feiyu. The saints of the three sects spoke one after another, their expressions filled with fear, afraid that the Sword Saint of Feiyu would strike them down with a single sword. Good. Excellent. So powerful. This is the strongest of the sacred land of Shenshao. To think that they can even have a strong individual as their teacher. Behind them, a group of elders from the Wang family, including the head of the Wang family, all had flushed faces, filled with excitement and joy, wishing they could roar to the sky. Ever since the three major forces joined forces, they had been humiliated and troubled, often living in fear, afraid that the Wang family would be annihilated. They were recently attacked in the Wang family's territory. If it weren't for the power of Su Changsheng, the Wang family would have been wiped out long ago. Now, seeing with their own eyes the three sect saints, who were originally high and mighty, arrogant and domineering, now trembling in fear, almost begging for mercy on their knees, they felt extremely delighted. Boom! However, in the face of the plea from the three saints, Qingchan remained cold and indifferent, with a terrifying aura that only grew stronger, surging and impacting countless miles. Radiant brilliance shone all around her, making her appear like a celestial being. No sadness, no joy, her cool gaze swept over everyone, looking down upon them, whether it was the Ling family, the Blood God sect saint, or the great saint behind Lady Whitebone. They were all the same in Qingchan's eyes. All would be cut down by her sword. The humiliation and anger in her heart needed an outlet, a way to vent. The three saints before her were the perfect targets for her release. Clang! Qingchan drew her sword, its brilliance dazzling, and a beam of sword energy shot up into the sky, instantly sweeping away several stars and shattering them. Hiss! This scene caused several saints to gasp in cold air, their scalps tingling and their minds trembling. What terrifying sword cultivation! Just the residual waves of the sword energy alone shattered stars from beyond the heavens. If they were to directly face a sword strike, there would be no way to survive. Attack together, fight with all our might. Good, we must give it our all, exhaust all our trump cards, otherwise we have no way out. Kill! The three saints exchanged glances and roared one after another. They knew that Qingchan had made up her mind to kill them all. However, as saints who had emerged from mountains of corpses and seas of blood, even though Qingchan was strong, they were still willing to fight. Boom! 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 The five saints made their move together, including Lady Whitebone. At this critical moment, they didn't dare to hold back, fully displaying their Tao, with boundless brilliance soaring into the sky. Five suns bloomed, their Taos resembling small worlds, with laws blooming in countless rays of light. Even a random divine light could cut through tens of thousands of miles of land. Boom! Not only that, they also summoned their respective sacred soldiers, unleashing various trump cards and displaying their power to the fullest. drawing upon the vast energy between heaven and earth, and launching an unparalleled strike together. That brilliant light is enough to engulf everything, making even the saint of the ninth heaven tremble in fear. At least, the saint from the Wang family is so terrified that his scalp is tingling and his face is extremely pale. If he were to face this attack head-on, he would definitely be instantly killed. Boom! Lu Qingchan remains indifferent, showing no joy or sorrow. She simply slashes with her sword, unleashing an unparalleled sword energy that soars into the sky. It is so massive that it is many times larger than a mountain. With a single sweep, all the combined attacks of the various saints and their unparalleled strikes are completely annihilated, and they are directed towards the three saints of the three teachings. Accompanied by several screams, two saints are instantly obliterated. Even their primordial spirits have no chance of escaping and are instantly shattered within the sword energy. However, there are still three lucky ones who manage to escape. One is a saint from the Blood God sect, another is the White Bone Lady, and the third is the mysterious saint shrouded in black mist. At this moment, the true form of that mysterious saint is revealed. It turns out to be a headless corpse, standing at 10 feet tall, with a dark golden color all over its body, exuding a sense of Buddhist nature. It emits the aura of the saint of the ninth heaven. However, under Lu Qingchan's sword, this corpse has already become tattered and filled with terrifying sword scars. On the other hand, although the other Blood God sect saint managed to escape, in reality, they were not far from perishing. Their expression was filled with extreme fear as they shouted loudly, and their body exploded. Their primordial spirit instantly burst into countless strands and scattered away. To abandon the physical body and use secret techniques, only to escape with a strand of primordial spirit? How foolish! Lu Qingchan's expression was cold and indifferent. She opened her 5 fingers and gently pointed at the void. Countless strands of sword light instantly burst out, piercing through and annihilating all the primordial spirits. Poof! On the other side, the Bone Lady was also in a sorry state. A broken Great Saint weapon protected her, a pagoda-like object. Although it was damaged, it emitted the aura of a Great Saint, blocking the fatal blow for her. A Great Saint forbidden weapon, although it is broken, it can withstand several fatal attacks from those beneath the Great Saint level. It seems you are highly favored by that Bone Great Saint. Lu Qingchan glanced over and immediately understood, speaking in a cold tone. The so-called Great Saint forbidden weapon is different from a Great Saint weapon. It only needs a simple activation to unleash the power of a Great Saint and can be used multiple times, but it cannot be used continuously for a long time. However, it is still very precious, and most Great Saints do not have many of them. Now, it has been given to the Bone Lady. Even if it is only broken, it is enough to show the Bone Lady's status. You despicable person! How dare you attack me? In the distance, Lady Whitebone's face contorted, her body covered in wounds, her beautiful face also marred by injuries. Sword intent surged, preventing her wounds from healing and making her extremely ugly. Even though she had the Great Saint's forbidden weapon, it was ultimately damaged and couldn't fully protect her, allowing her to be injured by fragments of sword energy. This intense pain made her feel extremely humiliated, even driving her mad as she looked at Lu Qingchan with intense resentment. Kill that bitch for me! Lady Whitebone screamed, losing her sanity as she commanded the tall headless figure to attack. Boom! The tall headless figure moved, although it was tattered. A 10-foot golden body emerged, exuding an invincible force that could crush everything. A massive palm descended, as if suppressing the heavens and earth. A Buddha's corpse, cultivating the 10-foot golden body. It's a pity. If you had become the peak Saint King, you could have fought me on equal terms. Lu Qingchan raised an eyebrow, recognizing the origin of this corpse, and sighed lightly. Boom! In the next instant, she flicked her finger, a strand of extreme sword light burst forth, transforming into soaring sword energy, directly shattering the headless corpse and causing it to explode. A mere corpse, only a peak saint, and now it didn't even possess half of its former strength. How could it possibly contend with her? The reason she was able to survive a sword strike from her earlier was because she didn't exert much strength. It was just a casual strike. Too powerful. Behind her, the saint from the Wang family watched in shock and disbelief. deeply shaken. The 5 great saints who made him so fearful and desperate were easily annihilated like chopping melons and slicing vegetables. Only you are left. Lu Qingchan's gaze turned cold as she looked at Lady Whitebone, her eyes filled with killing intent. She held grudges. Lady Whitebone dared to call her a bitch, and she heard it very clearly. There was no way she would let her go. Lady Whitebone felt a terrifying killing intent and couldn't help but scream in fear. Someone, save me, boom. Lu Qingchan ignored her and directly swung his sword. This sword unleashed its true power, pressing down and landing with a force that shook the entire True Saint continent. Even if the other party had a Great Saint forbidden weapon, it wouldn't be able to protect them. After all, it was already damaged. Crack. But in the next second, that treasure tower trembled violently, cracked in the middle, and then exploded, with a white-bone figure walking out from it, emitting an endless and majestic Great Saint aura, a white-bone Great Saint. Seeing this scene, Lu Qingchan's eyes widened, and a look of astonishment appeared on his face. How is it possible for a Great Saint to personally guard her? Pop! Just as Lu Qingchan was shocked, the white-bone figure lowered its head and simply pointed a finger, shattering the majestic sword Qi, causing it to disappear into nothingness. Interesting, the feather sword saint of the divine heaven sacred land, truly worthy of being a monstrous talent who reached the peak of the Saint King at such a young age. This kind of strength is indeed terrifying. The white-bone figure chuckled lightly. Its body was about 100 meters tall, composed entirely of huge bones. In its skull, a fierce primordial spirit fire burned, emitting a terrifying primordial spirit fluctuation. So that's how it is, it's a Tao avatar. Does a Saint Realm husband value a concubine so much that he would dispatch a Tao avatar to protect her? Lu Qingchan carefully observed and his gaze flickered as he recognized its state, sighing lightly. The so-called Tao avatar is created by a Saint Realm powerhouse at a great cost, using various heavenly treasures and dividing a portion of their primordial spirit to condense it, possessing the combat power of their true self. Tao avatars are very precious. Once destroyed, they cannot be restored and will also harm the primordial spirit of the main body. Therefore, ordinary powerhouses rarely condense Tao avatars, let alone use them to protect a concubine. That's right, Yuer is important to me. I hope the Feather Sword Saint will go easy on me and give me some face. The white-bone Great Saint smiled, very calm. Sir. Upon hearing these words, Lady Whitebone was moved and looked at Great Saint Whitebone with tearful eyes. It's impossible. Lu Qingchan's expression was cold and she immediately refused without hesitation. If it were just her, even if Lady Whitebone insulted her, Lu Qingchan could let it go for the sake of Great Saint Whitebone's face. But killing 3 saints was the task given to her by Su Changsheng. Although Lu Qingchan disliked Su Changsheng, she didn't want to disappoint him either. Therefore, even in the face of a great saint, she had to complete the mission. It seems that today I have to kill a potential peerless genius. Great Saint Whitebone sighed lightly, boom. As soon as the words fell, it raised its hand and without hesitation, a bone claw that covered the sky came down, without using any divine ability, only the purest and overwhelming divine power, but even so, that kind of power still far surpassed that of a half-step great saint. Feishian sword. Seeing this, Lu Qingchan's expression condensed. She let out a clear cry, and the divine sword in her hand radiated an unparalleled holy aura. The peerless sword intent that erupted in her battle with Su Changsheng once again bloomed, boom. A world-shaking sword intent soared into the sky, with countless immortal lights surging, as if flying immortals. Accompanied by the terrifying sword Qi that swept across the stars, it actually cut off one of Great Saint Whitebone's bone claws, reducing it to powder. If this were to spread, it would be enough to shock the world. This was the Tao body of Great Saint Whitebone, although it only had 30% of its strength, but with Great Saint Whitebone's cultivation, even if it was only 30%, it was comparable to an ordinary Great Saint. In other words, Lu Qingchan directly cut off one hand of a Great Saint in a head-on battle. Impressive. Even ordinary young supremes are not as terrifying as you. The primordial spirit fire in the head of Great Saint Whitebone trembled violently, obviously extremely shocked and amazed. But unfortunately, you no longer have a second chance. As he spoke, Baigu raised one hand and struck, this time using his supreme technique, Bone World. The claws of the bone rapidly expanded, filling the heavens and earth, surrounded by an endless aura of death. Within it, a world of death condensed, filled with countless skeletal remains. This aura was too terrifying, reaching the highest heavens, causing countless stars to tremble and the vast land to shake, alarming numerous experts in the true Saint continent. Boom! As his palm descended, within the ancient city of the Wang family, countless experts wore fearful expressions. Completely despairing, Qingchan clenched her teeth. She wanted to continue attacking with her sword, but the previous strike had exhausted her too much, making it impossible for her to use it in the short term. Furthermore, this strike from the great saint Baigu far surpassed anything before, truly displaying the might of a great saint. Faced with this strike, if she didn't escape, she would die. I've seen power like that before. How could I possibly evade you? Qingchan gritted her teeth. A divine light burst forth from her sword as she prepared to resist with all her might. You stubborn fool, you still want to face this situation head-on. Aren't you just seeking death? A sigh sounded out. Boom. In the void, a finger appeared, with just a single point. The bone world created by the descending palm quickly shattered, endless corpses crumbling along with the giant bone hand. How dare you touch my woman? Today, this pile of bones, will die, and your true self will die along with you. In the trembling gaze of the great Saint Baigu, a figure dressed in starry robes appeared, unparalleled in beauty. It was none other than Changsheng. Why are you here? Qingchan also stared blankly at this scene, her heart in chaos, pounding heavily. What did he just say? His woman? But isn't she just a maid? Wait a minute, Qingchan, why did you suddenly admit that you are her woman? Chapter 73, Bone Fiend slashes Immortals and Gods with the Demon Saber, letting you out, Qingchan. You are listening at novelfull.audio. If I don't show up, you'll be skinned alive even if you don't die. Changsheng stood with his hands behind his back, his clothes fluttering in the wind, his eyes flickering as he glanced at her. Stupid woman, although the path of the sword requires an unwavering and unyielding mindset, it doesn't mean I want you to be foolishly throwing your life away. Why resist to the death when you could use your trump card to evade? Changsheng was a little annoyed. He couldn't believe that the esteemed Feiyu Sword Saint, the Saint King of the sacred land of Qinshui, didn't have any trump cards. With her talent, those great saint ancestors of the sacred land of Qinshui must treasure her greatly and surely have means to protect her. Hearing this, Qingchan's voice choked, wanting to retort but hesitating, realizing that her previous actions were indeed foolish. If it were before, she would definitely choose to use her trump card, but this time, for some reason, she didn't want to escape, she just wanted to rely on herself to resist. Therefore, knowing that she was in the wrong, Qingchan couldn't come up with a retort. Her lips moved slightly but no words came out. However, her clear and beautiful face was now tinged with a blush, feeling a bit flustered. Be more careful next time. Seeing Qingchan's silence and the slightly blushing expression on her pretty face, Changsheng raised an eyebrow and sighed lightly. If he hadn't sensed the situation here and arrived in time, this foolish woman would have been seriously injured at the very least. After all, the realm of a great saint was still too strong, and it was not easy to cross over. Even young supremes and young great emperors needed to be at least half a step into the realm of great saint to kill across realms. Although Qingchan was extremely talented, she hadn't fully awakened and transformed yet, and she was still far from being half a step into the realm of great saint. She still had a long way to go to confront a great saint. Saint Changsheng. Hiss, he actually shattered a great saint's arm with just one finger. Could it be that Saint Changsheng has already become a great saint? It's too unbelievable. Now we should call him Great Saint Changsheng. Behind them, a group of Wang family elders, including the patriarch and the Wang family saint, who were originally in despair, were now shocked by Changsheng's strength, to shatter a great saint's arm with just one finger. There was only one possibility, and that was that Changsheng had already become a great saint. Only a great saint can contend with another great saint. This is common knowledge among countless cultivators. SSS. Great saint, At this moment, the head of the Wang family was even more excited, breathing heavily, with an impulse to faint from happiness. The Wang family could actually form a marriage alliance with a great saint, and both of their daughters were going to marry Su Changsheng. Doesn't this mean that he, as the father-in-law, is going to soar? Although the head of the Wang family didn't dare to show off in front of Su Changsheng, he didn't dare to do so, but in the eyes of outsiders, Su Changsheng is his backer, his son-in-law. Who would dare to oppress him then? Even a saint king would have to give him some face. A group of Wang family elders also thought of this point, and their eyes towards the head of the family were filled with envy. Even the gaze of the Wang family's saint changed, and in his heart, he secretly made a decision to elevate the position of the head of the Wang family to the same level as himself. Su Changsheng, the great saint of white bones, was shaken, and within the huge skull, the burning primordial spirit fire was violently jumping. With a tone of shock, Su Changsheng, isn't he just a saint king? Because of the white bone lady, the great saint of white bones has always paid attention to the forces of the true saint continent. Among them, Su Changsheng, who rose at an astonishing speed, also caught his attention. Originally, he thought that Su Changsheng's strength was only at the level of a saint king, and he wanted to kill him and plunder the essence of his flesh and blood to help himself break through to a new level of cultivation. But now it seems that he was just wishful thinking. Su Changsheng's strength is no longer that of a saint king, but that of a great saint. A great saint, and his strength is very likely to be stronger than his. Master, are you all right? Beside him, the white bone lady's face turned pale. Looking at the white bone great saint who had lost both arms, she spoke in a worried tone. I'm fine. The great saint of white bones glanced at her. The divine power within his body circulated, and countless radiance surged from him, shining brightly. Soon, two large white bone hands appeared again. Boom. A complete set of white bones stood tall, with the imposing aura of the great saint permeating the surroundings, showing no signs of weakness. The power was so strong that it reached its peak, making the saint realm immortal and difficult to kill. Especially for the powerful great saints, unless they were instantly killed with absolute strength, causing both their primordial spirit and physical body to completely dissipate, they could be reborn with a drop of blood. Fellow Taoist, strength is truly admirable. Today's battle ends here. Until we meet again. The white bone great saint laughed heartily, constantly opening and closing its jaw, like a demonic god exuding immense ferocity. Boom. Immediately after, it grabbed the white bone lady, a bone finger extended and slashed through the void, creating a huge crack, ready to leave. It paid no attention to Su Changsheng's words. Destroy its Tao body, slay its true form. How laughable. It was the white bone great saint, who had roamed the divine realm for countless millennia, not only having countless enemies but even offending the top-grade experts of the great saint nine heavens. Even so, it still lived freely. Although Su Changsheng was also a great saint, in the eyes of the white bone great saint, he was at most slightly stronger. Killing it was an impossible task. Want to leave? Did I let you go? Seeing this scene, Su Changsheng raised an eyebrow. He had said that he would destroy the white bone great saint's Tao body and true form, and naturally, he would do so. Boom. Su Changsheng pointed his finger, just like before, a finger that shocked the heavens and earth, gathering countless radiance and condensing into a divine light that pierced through the universe. Wherever it passed, space shattered, and chaotic energy ran rampant. The white bone great saint, being the first to bear the brunt, now keenly sensed a strong sense of death. Within its skull, the fire of the primordial spirit trembled violently, emanating an incredibly shocking emotion. Su Changsheng, do not push your luck. But the white bone great saint's reaction was not slow. It let out an angry roar, and with a grab of its hand, an endless aura of death surged from the heavens and earth, condensing into a sharp blade. A bone blade that spanned the heavens and earth appeared, exuding an extremely terrifying aura. Creak, creak. Not only that, from within its white bone body, boundless divine radiance continuously overflowed, containing an ultimate source power that continuously poured into the bone blade. In an instant, its body seemed to have traversed countless ages. Originally smooth as jade, possessing astonishing power, like the skeletal body of a demonic god, it has now become decayed and could collapse at any moment. In contrast, the power of the bone knife has reached its peak, exuding a terrifying aura, as if it could cut through the 9 heavens. The billion bone death slash. Great Saint White Bone roared angrily, wielding the bone knife, overflowing with divine power, and fiercely slashed out. This is its self-created divine ability secret technique, containing the essence of its lifelong cultivation of the white bone Tao. At this moment, combined with all the power of its Tao body, the power of this move erupted to its extreme. An unparalleled scene unfolded. In a radius of millions, tens of millions, or even billions of miles, the entire true saint continent, countless creatures and cultivators, could all see a tremendous anomaly from afar. A bone knife slashed through the sky, and the bodies of countless celestial immortal corpses fell, stained with blood, and perished in this strike. Countless people were shocked. What an incredible great saint technique! The white bone great saint is truly formidable. In the midst of the extreme beginning sect, an old man with white beard stood with his hands behind his back, his white clothes fluttering, his beard floating, appearing like an extraordinary expert. He looked at the enormous bone knife and sighed. How does it compare to Su Changsheng? Beside him, the old ancestor Tai Su watched this scene with a solemn expression, feeling his mind trembling. He couldn't help but ask in a low voice. He recalled the scene not long ago when Su Changsheng killed the Scarlet Venerable with a single sword, equally shocking, equally terrifying, but the realm of the old ancestor Tai Su was ultimately not that of a great saint, so he couldn't discern the difference between the two. Compared to Su Changsheng, the old man with white beard stroked his beard, his eyes narrowed slightly as he looked towards the end of the sky, revealing a meaningful smile, and then chuckled lightly. In a battle at the same realm, it would be like slaughtering a pig or a dog. Upon hearing this, the old ancestor Tai Su's face was filled with astonishment. The white bone great saint, in myriad manifestation city, within the Su family, Empress Qingge also sensed this aura and felt somewhat surprised. This person is someone she is quite familiar with. In the future, he will rise to prominence, ascend to the Quasi-Emperor level, establish the white bone divine nation, and turn several divine realms into lands of death. Even the quasi-emperors of the everlasting imperial court were helpless against it. If I remember correctly, it seems to have obtained part of the inheritance of the Dark Emperor in the true Saint Continent, and later joined the Crimson Blood imperial court. Qingge muttered to herself. In the future, this arrogant white bone great saint had been rampant for a long time, but was eventually slapped to death by her, who had risen. But now, it seems that this future quasi-emperor is afraid of falling prematurely. Qingge shook her head slightly. Su Changsheng's strength is much more abnormal than her previous life at the same level. Killing a white bone great saint is as easy as blowing off dust. On the other side, in the battlefield, Su Changsheng, meet your death. The white bone great saint shouted, wielding a bone knife and striking an unparalleled blow. All spirits trembled, as if the myriad of heavens and earth were about to be shattered by a single slash. Boom! The blade's radiance descended and collided with that beam of divine light. One side was the bone demon blade that had slain countless bone demons, while the other was a divine light casually emitted with a flick of a finger. The difference between the two can be described as heaven and earth, but at the moment of collision, the trend was completely one-sided. In the shocked gaze of the white bone great saint, that beam of divine light pierced through its bone demon blade, and an inexplicable force swept through, shattering everything in its path. Plop! Then the divine light pierced through, pulverizing the light of the white bone great saint's primordial spirit. The massive bone body also shattered. How is this possible? Amidst the shattered remains, the fragmented primordial spirit of the white bone great saint emitted an incredulous voice. It had no faith in law manifestation. Its strongest blow, capable of killing gods and slaughtering immortals, was easily crushed by a single slash that killed the great saint. My lord! The physical body of great Saint Baigu has fallen, and Lady Baigu has also appeared. Seeing this scene, her eyes turned red, filled with immense grief, and her voice was filled with sorrow. No need to shout. Su Changsheng's voice came. Lady Baigu felt as if the world had changed, and then she appeared in front of Su Changsheng. Su Changsheng! I will kill you. Seeing Su Changsheng, Lady Baigu's face became extremely ferocious, revealing boundless hatred. This scene caught the attention of Lu Qingchan. Lady Baigu's feelings for Great Saint Baigu are indeed very strong. To be able to make her so grief-stricken, and even dare to show her killing intent and resentment to a great saint face to face. You have quite the attachment to those bones. Unfortunately, the other party never saw you as a lover, only as food, a living Dao fruit. Su Changsheng couldn't help but applaud, but then his tone changed. What do you mean? With these words, Lady Baigu was directly stunned, and Lu Qingchan beside her was also somewhat astonished, not treating Lady Baigu as a lover. But Great Saint Baigu clearly valued Lady Baigu very much, even sending a physical body to protect her, so that's how it is. Lu Qingchan's heart stirred, carefully observing Lady Baigu, probing with his divine sense, and understanding the essence, his eyes filled with pity. What do you mean? Don't even think about trying to come between me and the great saint's feelings. Seeing Lu Qingchan's pitying gaze, Lady Baigu felt uneasy in her heart, but her face remained ferocious as she screamed. Your physique is called the Yin Sha divine body, most suitable for cultivating the path of Yin and evil Qi. Coincidentally, Great Saint Baigu walks the path of bones. He possesses a secret technique that can cultivate others as Dao fruits, using them as nourishment once they are ripe, to enhance his own strength. Have you often been infused with the essence of Great Saint Baigu's blood and flesh, forcibly increasing your cultivation? This is a sign of cultivation through planting Dao. Your situation is clear to me, Su Changsheng said with a playful look in his eyes. He never expected that Great Saint Baigu would be so ruthless, cultivating through planting Dao on his own wives and concubines, nurturing them into Dao fruits to be devoured. This is the path of killing one's wife to prove one's Dao. Truly ruthless. Lady Whitebone froze, her heart turned cold as she recalled the various strange signs from before. Great Saint Whitebone often fed her the essence of powerful beings to enhance her strength. In addition, the previous wives and concubines of Great Saint Whitebone seemed to mysteriously disappear, dying without a trace. She had asked before, but Great Saint Whitebone only responded indifferently, saying that she would understand one day. Now thinking back, that tone made her shudder. It's impossible, this can't be. Thinking of this, Lady Whitebone lost her senses. She never expected that Great Saint Whitebone, whom she thought loved her deeply, would actually treat her as food. All right, it's time for you to go. Su Changsheng's expression was calm as he pointed, and in the terrified eyes of Lady Whitebone, he killed her. Before Lady Whitebone could finish her words, her body and primordial spirit had already shattered, crushed by Su Changsheng's finger. Beside them, witnessing this scene, Lu Qingchan was somewhat stunned. She opened her mouth, wanting to say something, but ultimately remained silent. You seem curious as to why I killed Lady Whitebone after revealing the truth. Seeing this, Su Changsheng chuckled lightly. That's right. Lu Qingchan nodded gently, her beautiful eyes lifting and falling on Su Changsheng, her charming eyelashes fluttering with curiosity. Isn't this redundant? And, it's also somewhat cruel. I did this naturally to make her suffer and despair. Su Changsheng casually explained. She loved Great Saint Whitebone so much, so I exposed Great Saint Whitebone's true face, made her suffer, made her despair, and then killed her. Why? Lu Qingchan blurted out, her eyes fixed on Su Changsheng, her heart pounding. She seemed to have guessed something, and found it hard to believe. Let me vent for you. Su Changsheng chuckled lightly, his gaze turning towards Lu Qingchan, his tone gentle. Bang bang bang. Although it was just a simple phrase, when it fell into Lu Qingchan's ears, it caused an unprecedented tremor in her sword heart. Her pretty face turned red, and her heart trembled incessantly. Even the shameful act of serving him in bed a few days ago did not have the same impact as this time. She seemed to be on the verge of falling. Qingchan, come with me. Just as Lu Qingchan was in a state of panic, her sword heart wavering, and her pretty face blushing, Su Changsheng's voice came. Where to? Lu Qingchan instinctively asked, and the next second, a hand held her small hand. She raised her eyebrows and looked at Su Changsheng's profile, only to hear him say softly. I'll take you to destroy the true body of that white-boned great saint and vent your anger. Lu Qingchan's breath hitched. After a long time, she responded softly. Boom! On the other side, in the Yin-Sha demon continent, within the white-bone demon palace, accompanied by a terrifying roar, the white-bone great saint appeared, looking like a middle-aged man. Su Changsheng. The white-bone great saint roared, exuding an overwhelming aura. He was extremely furious. His Dao body had been destroyed, and the Dao fruit he had carefully cultivated and prepared to devour had also been annihilated. Such enmity could be called heaven-shaking. This cause and effect will be settled sooner or later. The white-bone great saint muttered in a cold tone. Fellow Taoist, why persist in this demonic path, why be obsessed? You should know that putting down the butcher's knife can lead to enlightenment and become a Buddha on the spot. If fellow Taoist gives up the demonic path, you can enter our Buddhist sect and achieve the position of a guardian bodhisattva. At this moment, a peaceful, moving, and compassionate female voice came through. Chapter 74, The Taste of the Buddhist Goddess, Ziwei Emperor Shadow, Quasi-Emperor arrives. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The sound was extremely peaceful. At the same time, it seemed as if thousands of Buddhist chants and sounds were ringing out, reciting scriptures and guiding people to transcendence. If an ordinary person were to hear it, even a normal saint, they would not be able to resist being captivated by the sound and entering the Buddhist path, becoming a protector. But the great Saint Baigu, as a powerful great saint and a giant of his generation, naturally would not be swayed by mere sound. His eyes turned cold, and a terrifying wave of energy erupted, surging out and directly shattering the sound. Then, his gaze looked over, below the demonic palace, in a deep abyss, amidst a sea of countless corpses, sat a peerless and unparalleled bodhisattva goddess. She sat cross-legged on a white lotus platform, holding a lotus flower mudra in her hand. At the center of her brow, there was a red lotus flower mark. Her face was flawlessly beautiful, exuding Buddha nature. Behind her, a bodhisattva law manifestation appeared, with 1,000 hands and 1,000 weapons. Each of the fair and jade-like arms held a Buddhist artifact. A brilliant divine light radiated, accompanied by the appearance of illusions of Buddhas, bodhisattvas, and arhats, reciting countless Buddhist sounds. It was as if a Buddhist realm had descended. Boom! In this abyss, countless corpses, not just billions, emit an overwhelming evil aura, accompanied by countless wailing souls, trapping them within. Not only that, in all directions of the world, there are large formations that can easily trap a great saint, one after another, interconnected, forming an unparalleled deadly formation. Various horrifying fluctuations constantly bloom. The power of the deadly formation surges, pressing down and erasing that Buddhist land. Qingge Tianenv of Mount Shimi, you can't even protect yourself now, and you still want to convert me. The great saint of white bones gaze shifts, staring at that stunning heavenly maiden, continuously sneering. She is one of the most outstanding geniuses of the Buddhist forces in this era, qualified to obtain a status equivalent to a Buddha, and her future achievements are at least that of a quasi-emperor realm Buddha. The Qingge Tianenv before her is one of the most outstanding heavenly guardians of Mount Shimi. Fellow Taoist, don't be deluded. Although you have trapped me now, the Buddhas of Mount Shimi will sense it at any time. Once a Buddha takes action, no matter how great your divine ability is, you will be killed. Qingge Tianenv lowers her gaze, speaking softly, her tone filled with boundless compassion. Ha ha ha, Qingge Tianenv, don't scare me. So what if there's a Buddha? Do you really think I want you? To be honest, there is a big shot in the Crimson Blood Imperial Court who wants you. I'm just bait, luring you in. I believe that soon, several fellow Taoists will come to take you. At that time, I'm really curious to see how the #1 heavenly maiden of Mount Shimi, the heavenly maiden who glimpses the supreme Buddhist teachings, will perform in bed. Great Saint Baigu sneered continuously, his gaze sweeping over the stunning face of the clear sound celestial maiden and the pervasive compassion and Buddha nature within her. He felt a bit restless in his heart. Unfortunately, this was what the important figure from the Crimson Blood Imperial Court wanted, and he couldn't interfere, so it was him, the boundless sea of bitterness, the one who turns back at the shore. Why be so persistent over a mere mortal vessel? Upon hearing this, the clear-sound celestial maiden's expression changed slightly. She raised her eyebrows and sighed, filled with sorrow. It seemed like a sigh from the people in the sea of bitterness, sinking into desire. Humph! In response, Great Saint Baigu only snorted coldly and ignored her. At the same time, his gaze flickered, thinking of that Su Changsheng, and a murderous intent surged in his heart. He really wanted to kill the other party, but then he remembered what Su Changsheng had said earlier, and he became somewhat wary. If the other party were to attack, he alone would not be a match for Su Changsheng. At this moment, in the distant sky, a shocking dragon roar resounded, accompanied by a terrifying aura, causing Great Saint Baigu to reveal a pleased expression. Ha ha ha, clear sound celestial maiden, the one you've been waiting for has arrived. Soon, you will serve your benefactor. Great Saint Baigu laughed heartily. The clear sound celestial maiden remained unchanged, only lowering her head and reciting Buddhist scriptures, pure and holy, with boundless Buddha light emanating from her. Boom! Soon, a heavenly dragon flew over from the distant horizon, traversing billions of miles in an instant, and then appeared before him, transforming into a young man with dragon horns. In addition, there were several figures beside him, each exuding the aura of a great saint. Great Saint Baigu greets the third prince. Upon seeing the young man with dragon horns, Great Saint Baigu showed a respectful expression and stepped forward to speak. Great Saint Baigu has not disappointed the expectations of the third prince. He has successfully trapped the clear sound celestial maiden and only awaits the arrival of the third prince to block her. Ha ha ha, very good, Baigu. This prince did not misjudge you. Well done, from now on, you will be a guest of the divine martial palace. The young man with dragon horns laughed heartily, patting Great Saint Baigu's shoulder with approval in his eyes. Thank you, your highness. Upon hearing this, Great Saint Baigu was pleasantly surprised and quickly knelt down on one knee. This person, the godly martial king, is a prominent figure in the Crimson Blood Imperial Court, a dominant force at the peak of the Quasi-Emperor realm. And the young man before him is his own son. Qingge, long time no see. The young man with dragon horns ignored him and instead looked at Qingchan, who was trapped. With a smile on his lips and a graceful demeanor, he resembled a noble young master. However, there was a burning greed in his eyes, revealing his true intentions. Since our last meeting, this prince has been thinking of you day and night, unable to sleep. I can only resort to this plan. Please forgive this prince, Qingge. The young man with dragon horns continued speaking. Alas, fellow Taoist, why be so obsessed with worldly desires? Qingge is devoted to Buddhism, only seeking to attain the position of Buddha and guide all beings to the Western Pure Land. Qingchan sighed and spoke with lowered brows. This physical body is nothing more than a mundane object, destined to decay and wither. Why be infatuated with it and fall into the lower realms? Very well, very well. You truly are a heavenly maiden of Buddhism, possessing great wisdom and determination. Unfortunately, this prince is obsessed with physical bodies. Since you are unwilling, this prince can only resort to force. Upon hearing this, the young man with dragon horns laughed heartily, his eyes filled with affection as he looked at Qingchan. You may attack. The young man with dragon horns commanded the several great saints behind him with a wave of his hand. Yes, your highness. The several great saints stepped forward, immediately erupting with overwhelming holy might. Each of them extended a large hand, grabbing hold of this pit in the sky, and then tearing and cutting through the entire space. In the end, this space of tens of thousands of miles was torn apart, along with numerous great formations. It looked like a shattered small world. This scene caused Qingchan's expression to slightly change. The other party intended to take away the entire dangerous place. If that were the case, she would have no chance to escape. Once she arrived at the godly martial king's residence, even if she had the ability to reach the heavens, she would still be unable to escape and would be at the mercy of others. It seems that there is no other choice. Qingchan sighed inwardly as the lotus flower seal in her hand quietly transformed. She naturally had a trump card to escape, but the price would be extremely high and would harm her foundation. She didn't want to use it easily, but now, in this situation, she has no choice but to do it. Your Highness, I have a request, please help me. Just as Qingchan was preparing to use her trump card, White-Bone Great Saint said to the Dragonhorn youth. Speak. You have achieved such great merit, as long as it's not too excessive, I will grant your request. The Dragonhorn youth felt delighted in his heart, his face beaming, and he waved his hand to agree without hesitation. It's like this. White-Bone Great Saint felt pleasantly surprised in his heart and immediately explained Changsheng's situation. A great saint has threatened to kill you. The Dragonhorn youth's expression became somewhat strange as he glanced at White-Bone Great Saint, with a hint of doubt. Your Highness should know that you were able to escape from the hands of a peak great saint. A mere ordinary great saint shouldn't make you so fearful. Hearing this, White-Bone Great Saint bitterly smiled. His so-called escape from the hands of a peak great saint was greatly exaggerated, the other party simply didn't take him seriously, but Changsheng was different. Not only was he powerful, but his influence and the continent he was on were similar. They would inevitably cross paths sooner or later, unless he wanted to give up his own power, but could he, the esteemed White-Bone Great Saint, be scared into giving up his foundation by a mere great saint? Very well, I agree. It's just a small great saint, so let's take care of that true saint continent on the way. The Dragonhorn youth said nonchalantly. A mere great saint was nothing in his eyes, just an ant. Thank you, Your Highness. White-Bone Great Saint exclaimed in surprise. With this, his biggest concern was resolved. In addition to his status as a guest of the Shenwu King's mansion, as long as he didn't provoke the terrifying Hunkin Holy Academy in the Chaos Kun Divine Domain, he could do as he pleased, he could even act wantonly in the surrounding divine domains. Boom. At this moment, a tremendous shock came, and several great saints made their move, continuously compressing the tens of thousands of miles of space, eventually forming a small world of 10 meters. Within it, Qingchan sat cross-legged, her face compassionate, and boundless Buddha light pervaded, like a magnificent and charming bodhisattva that amazed the world. Okay. Soon, His Highness will be able to taste the flavor of going after women. That the young man with dragon horns had a greedy look in his eyes. He had the bloodline of the dragon race and a natural inclination towards indulgence and a great liking for women. He had tasted all kinds of women, but he had yet to try the celestial maidens of the Buddhist sect. Clap, clap, clap. At this moment, a round of applause sounded. Your Highness, I am also quite interested in the celestial maidens of the Buddhist sect. Can I have a share as well? At the same time, a playful laughter sounded, echoing in everyone's ears. That the clear sound celestial maiden, who was concentrating on condensing her divine ability seal and preparing to unleash her trump card, was also taken aback. Could there be another unexpected turn of events? That the young man with dragon horns immediately darkened his expression, his eyes radiating a terrifying killing intent. Someone dared to compete with him for women. The great saint of white bones also had a change in his expression. This voice couldn't be wrong, it was Changsheng. Your Highness, it's Changsheng, that the great saint of white bones exclaimed softly, and at the same time, his divine power surged as his mighty divine consciousness reached out, trying to locate Changsheng. The clear sound celestial maiden silently repeated in her heart. She temporarily halted her preparations to unleash her trump card, wanting to see if there was still a chance for things to turn around. Boom, boom, boom. The gazes of several great saints also turned cold as their divine consciousness swept out like a storm, sweeping across the heavens and earth, stirring up the universe, trying to locate Changsheng. However, what shocked them was that even when several great saints joined forces, they still couldn't find Changsheng. What's going on here? Are you looking for me? That just as a few people were uncertain, two figures emerged from the void. It was Changsheng and Qingchan. Bones, I've come to break your bones. Changsheng smiled and looked at the fiercely murderous great saint Whitebone. So this is Changsheng. The heavenly maiden Qingyin also saw Changsheng, her eyes brightening. Even though she was a Buddhist heavenly maiden who was not moved by worldly appearances, she had to admit that Su Changsheng's appearance was not like that of an ordinary person. He truly possessed an unparalleled celestial countenance, extraordinary and almost like a deity. It made her Buddhist heart tremble slightly. You must be Su Changsheng. Such a beautiful female sword immortal, not inferior to Qingge. Very well, it seems that this prince has gained another prey, that the young man with dragon horns frowned as he looked at Su Changsheng, revealing a killing intent. But when he saw Lu Qingchan beside her, his eyes lit up and he couldn't help but smile with delight. That greedy gaze disgusted Lu Qingchan, almost making her draw her sword to kill him. This kind of gaze, this despicable trash, was much more disgusting than Su Changsheng. No, it couldn't even compare. Kill him, that the young man with dragon horns waved his hand and ordered, his tone as if he were crushing an ant. His gaze had been fixed on Lu Qingchan the whole time, completely disregarding Su Changsheng. In his eyes, only Lu Qingchan mattered at this moment. The heavenly maiden Qingge sighed inwardly, hoping that Su Changsheng had some strength. Otherwise, the woman by his side would probably suffer. Yes. Your Highness, I will kill him and present Lu Qingchan to you. Several great saints immediately stepped forward, with the great saint Whitebone laughing loudly. The majestic aura of the great saints erupted, intending to join forces to kill Su Changsheng. He didn't believe that facing several great saints working together, a mere Su Changsheng could turn the tide. Lu Qingchan, what a nice name. This prince is growing fonder of you. The young man with dragon horns muttered, his eyes shining, his tone filled with even more affection. Hearing this, Lu Qingchan felt disgusted all over, feeling goosebumps rising on her skin, and her hand gripping the long sword was about to strike. Do you really want to die like this? At this moment, Lu Qingchan heard a voice coming from the side. It was Su Changsheng speaking, very plain, as if indifferent, but Lu Qingchan could sense an extreme coldness contained within, like the icy coldness of the 9 nether extreme immortal ice, freezing to the bone, chilling the heart and soul, making even the primordial spirit feel like it would shatter. Su Changsheng's expression was cold and indifferent. His gaze swept over several great saints, including the white-bone great saint, as well as the young man with dragon horns and others, causing an endless chill to rise in their hearts, as if being stared at by a monstrous beast. Boom! An unimaginable and terrifying aura erupted, as if the heavens were collapsing and the earth was splitting apart. In a daze, a heavenly emperor who commanded the stars appeared. In the first instant, the aura of several great saints who came together to suppress shattered, the intense momentum shook their bodies, they almost vomited blood. In their eyes, an extreme horror was revealed. This is. The young man with dragon horns also showed a shocked expression, no longer having the attitude of looking down on Su Changsheng as before. Boom! Only to see, above the 9 heavens, a towering and boundless emperor's shadow appeared, surrounded by billions of galaxies. In its eyes, there were patches of star seas being born and dying, rotating endlessly, wearing an imperial robe. There were mysterious and unparalleled imprints of the great universe on it, and the stars and constellations floated and sank in the palm of the hand. Countless auras surged, as if tearing apart the universe, shaking the heavens and earth, and the face of that emperor's shadow was none other than Su Changsheng. This is the law manifestation of the heavenly emperor's starry sky. Scripture, Purple Way Emperor. Great Saint. In the small world, Qingge was also shocked, her lips trembling as she uttered 2 words, incredibly shocked. This is one of the top 30 strongest on the Great Saint list. Boom! Just as everyone was shocked, Su Changsheng's gaze swept over, and the towering emperor's shadow also moved. A big hand slapped down, chaotic energy surged, truly covering everything, destroying everything. Give it your all, the young man with dragon horns exclaimed in horror, and the white-boned great saint trembled in fear, only able to bite the bullet and make a move. Boom! Several great saints trembled, filled with fear, but in order to survive, they all gave it their all, activating various trump cards and great saint weapons, unleashing world-shaking attacks. The young man with dragon horns gritted his teeth and threw out several treasures, emitting the aura of an unparalleled great saint. Among them, one was even approaching the level of a hegemon. Boom boom boom, the giant hand of the Emperor's shadow descended, with a posture that could destroy everything, easily crushing all resistance, including the so-called Great Saint weapons. Several Great Saints were even shattered by a palm in fear, along with their primordial spirits. The white-boned Great Saint, before dying, was filled with immense regret. The young man with dragon horns was also filled with fear. His strength was formidable, even among the Great Saints, but under this palm, he was like an ant, all his methods crushed. Even the treasure approaching the level of a hegemon couldn't withstand it and shattered in an instant. Boom. At this moment, a golden phantom emerged from the young man's forehead, emitting a terrifying and boundless aura of a Quasi-Emperor. Who dares to harm my son? That a majestic voice resounded. Chapter 76. Married again, marrying 9 goddesses in a row. Qingchan is pregnant. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Great Emperor is immeasurable and difficult to deduce. Only beings at this level can prevent this majestic Quasi-Emperor from deducing. However, even if it is a Great Emperor, it shouldn't just be deducing, right? Shouldn't it make him feel the threat of death? Moreover, although I don't know the specific identity of the other party, the person doesn't give him a strong feeling, at least, not a Quasi-Emperor. You mean, a Great Emperor has made a move against Qingge? Shenwu, do you expect me to believe that? The beautiful woman laughed angrily. She knows what kind of person her child is. Majestic Great Emperor, how could such an existence possibly make a move against her child? Shenwu Wang fell silent. He also felt that his speculation was absurd. Perhaps the person who killed his child possessed a treasure that could conceal the secrets of heaven, or there was someone else covering for him. All of this is possible. Could it be that the person left no information at all? Is your divine sense so useless? The beautiful woman shouted angrily, and the aura of a Quasi-Emperor surged toward Shenwu Wang. If it were an ordinary Great Saint, they would probably be crushed by the aura of the Quasi-Emperor. However, Shenwu Wang is a peak Quasi-Emperor, and his strength surpasses that of the beautiful woman, so he naturally isn't afraid of her pressure. That's not the case. That strand of divine sense did transmit some information to me. His name is Changsheng, a powerful individual from the everlasting imperial court. His cultivation level and identity are unknown. Shenwu Wang sighed lightly and revealed the information he had obtained, causing the beautiful woman's expression to change unpredictably. Unknown cultivation level. Unknown identity. The beautiful woman muttered to herself, then suddenly burst into a cold laugh. Her golden eyes looked toward Shenwu Wang. It seems that you are afraid of the other party, fearing that he might be the first supreme. Humph, since you dare not seek revenge for Qingge, then I will go myself. I refuse to believe that as the princess of the Tianlong clan, I cannot avenge Qingge. Su Changsheng. This 683 princess will remember it. After speaking, the beautiful woman turned and left without even looking at the god of war. I also wanted to take action, but I don't have the time. I can't spare my hands. The god of war looked at the departing woman and sighed softly, feeling helpless. However, he wasn't worried that something would happen to the woman, as the princess of the Heavenly Dragon clan and a Quasi-Emperor powerhouse with many hidden cards. Even if she encountered a peak Quasi-Emperor, she would be able to escape unscathed. A Great Saint, no matter how astonishing their combat power, would not be able to match a woman who could sever a strand of his divine sense. What a troublesome autumn. The god of war sighed lightly and then disappeared. The news of this place quietly spread, causing a sensation in the imperial capital. The god of war's offspring had been killed, and the culprit was Su Changsheng of the everlasting imperial court, who was only at the realm of a Great Saint, yet he had killed a strand of the god of war's Quasi-Emperor divine sense. Countless forces were shocked by this news. On the other side, in the true Saint continent, after Su Changsheng and the others returned, the Wang family and Su family took the opportunity to launch a thunderous attack on the 3 major sections. Wherever they went, they uprooted all the forces of the 3 major sections. In just 10 days, the forces of the 3 major sects were wiped out, and their territories were all occupied by the Su family and Wang family. The Wang family also declared their allegiance to the Su family and married 2 of their celestial maidens to ancestor Changsheng. For a while, the entire True Saint continent was shaken, and many forces, including some remaining top-grade forces, were all filled with fear. The actions of the Su family were too fast. In such a short period of time, they had wiped out 3 top-grade forces and gained the allegiance of the Wang family. It could be said that almost 1/3 of the top-grade forces in the True Saint continent had been destroyed by Su Changsheng. How could they not be fearful and uneasy? However, just when many forces were feeling uneasy, the Su family released a message that the ancestor of the Su family, Su Changsheng, was about to get married and the wedding would be held in 2 days. Upon hearing this news, many forces felt relieved because a good marriage was beneficial. As long as the grand wedding takes place, the Su family will not engage in external battles for a period of time, and they will have more time to gather resources from major forces. At that time, whether one wants to surrender or run away, there will be more options available. 2 days later, in the midst of myriad manifestations city, an astonishing grand wedding officially began. Because this time, Su Changsheng married a total of 9 brides. 6 of them are peerless goddesses, Ziwei Emperor, and Miaoyi, Lin Miao, Wang Shi, Chuyu, and Lu Qingchan. In addition, there are 3 that Su Yun brought. Although they are only divine bodies, their appearances are also top-notch, worthy of being called goddesses renowned throughout the continent. Originally, Lu Qingchan was supposed to be a sword servant, but after the battle with the Bone Great Saint, Su Changsheng also changed his view of her and casually asked her a question. He thought he would be rejected, but unexpectedly, Lu Qingchan blushed and hesitated for a while before agreeing. The master and disciple both married him. This news reached the sacred land of Shenshao, almost making several great saint ancestors furious. One by one, they drew their swords and rushed over, wanting to beat Su Changsheng and snatch Lu Qingchan back. As a result, they were beaten by Su Changsheng. After witnessing the strength of Su Changsheng's great saint overlord, several originally furious great saint ancestors, one by one, had smiles squeezed into their faces, happily marrying Lu Qingchan to Su Changsheng, and they even said that if Lu Qingchan and her disciples were not enough, they would send a few more pairs from the sacred land of Shenshao. This made Lu Qingchan angry, and she drew her sword to drive them away. As for the last Qingyin celestial maiden, she claimed to be a follower and not worthy of being Su Changsheng's wife, but she could be a maid in the bedchamber. This made Su Changsheng ponder. Marrying 9 brides at once is not uncommon, but having all of them be peerless goddesses is truly terrifying. Truly envious of ancestor Changsheng. A man's life is nothing more than this. TSK, Ziwei Emperor, the master of a top-grade power, and in Miaoyi, who even made saints bow down in the past, and the Tian Nu of the Wang family, and even the saintess of extreme beginning sect, and even the sacred land of divine thunder. So many goddesses, all agreeing to marry the eternal saint. This is truly a man's fortune, something that can't be exchanged for several lifetimes. Only the eternal saint can win over so many goddesses. If it were someone else, even if they were also a saint, they would still be far from worthy. No wonder extreme beginning sect never interfered with the actions of the Su family. It turns out they had long been planning for a marriage alliance. Amidst the wedding banquet, powerful individuals from other forces were all amazed and envious, including the masters of those top-grade forces. They were very envious and jealous. It was extremely difficult, if not impossible, for any one of these 9 goddesses to be married, let alone all 9 together. This made them extremely envious of Su Changsheng's good fortune. May the groom and bride please step forward. Soon, the brides wearing red veils entered one by one, followed by Su Changsheng, with a noble bearing and an otherworldly charm. Countless cultivators and powerful individuals present were amazed. Many of the proud women of heaven and fairy-like figures were all shining with admiration. Too perfect, this was not an appearance that cultivators in the world could possess. After going through several wedding ceremonies, all the brides were sent to their bridal chambers. Afterwards, the wedding banquet continued, with a group of important figures, including powerful individuals from various sects and cultivators, feasting and celebrating, and this wedding banquet lasted for a whole month. While the group of powerful individuals and cultivators were enjoying the feast, Su Changsheng had already begun his intimate moments in the bridal chamber. First was in Miaoyi, Ziwei Emperor, and the other 3 goddesses, and finally Lin Miao and Wang Shi, the 2 women. It had to be said that as The holy maiden of the extreme beginning sect and the owner of the Taitsang divine body, Lin Miao gave him a good impression. Although she was shy in her reaction, there was a gentleness mixed with generosity. As for Wang Shi, it was quite the opposite. She was very wild and completely lacked the elegant demeanor of a goddess. My lord husband. In the room, Qiyu nervously closed her eyes. Having just drunk the bridal wine, she was now very nervous, slightly raising her head, eagerly awaiting Su Changsheng. Her mind was blank at this moment. Just over half a month ago, she was still a disciple of the sacred land of the divine sky, diligently cultivating under her master's guidance, striving to reach the pinnacle of the sword path. But a sudden marriage contract made her inexplicably become Su Changsheng's fiancée, and she foolishly called him her husband, getting her master involved as well. I thought I would regret it, but when our hands crossed and we drank the toast, a strong palpitation rose in her heart, completely captivating her, falling for Su Changsheng's tenderness. Su Changsheng said softly. Soon, a painful groan sounded. The beautiful sword immortal girl, the future twin sword immortal, is indeed amazing, Su Changsheng sighed. You lucky bastard. On the other side of the room, Lu Qingchan, dressed in red, looked very enchanting, with a different charm than usual. Her cold face softened a bit, full of charm. At this moment, she was staring at Su Changsheng, her gaze complex, with a hint of vicissitude. You have awakened some memories. Su Changsheng naturally sensed this aura and quickly understood. He directly asked. Yes, I remembered some, including the relationship between me and Yue. Lu Qingchan was stunned for a moment, then lowered her brows and said lightly, after being stimulated by the Quasi-Emperor's phantom, she had awakened some memories of her past life. Having obtained some memories of the ancient sword immortal, she remembered many things. So, do you still want to marry me? Su Changsheng smiled slightly, not surprised, just gazing at her and asking. If you don't want to, then leave now. Lu Qingchan bit her lip, thinking that Su Changsheng was disgusted with her. Her tone suddenly turned cold, and she said. Hee, I understand. Su Changsheng chuckled. This foolish woman actually doubted her own charm. Does she think that being the reincarnation of an ancient sword immortal would make him dislike her? Little does she know, this only makes her more charming and gives people a greater sense of conquest. This is the twin sword immortal, and they are also master and disciple. I naturally agree, your charm is quite great. Su Changsheng laughed. Su Changsheng. Soon, a painful cry rang out. In the following month, Su Changsheng frequently visited the bridal chamber, engaging in intimate activities with his new bride every day, like a diligent bee lingering among the flowers. Perhaps due to his excessive diligence, 3 goddesses became pregnant. However, they were all ordinary spirit ascension realm cultivators. Su Changsheng speculated that the aptitude of these children should not be too extraordinary. After all, the more extraordinary a child is, the less likely it is to conceive easily and quickly. Of course, he didn't mind. After all, they were all his children and would receive the appropriate attention. Another month later, unexpectedly, Lu Qing became pregnant. This female sword immortal blushed, completely losing her usual cold and aloof demeanor, gently caressing her flat belly, her face filled with maternal tenderness. Master, are you really pregnant? In a courtyard, the women gathered around Lu Qingchan, with Chuyu curiously surrounding her. It was quite rare. The others also looked envious. None of them had become pregnant, but they didn't expect that Lu Qingchan, the strongest and most talented woman, would be the first to conceive. Well, it may take a long time for the child to be born, Lu Qingchan responded softly. She caressed her flat abdomen, feeling a bit complicated in her heart. Once upon a time, she was the feather-flying sword saint who roamed the divine realm, cold and peerless, overlooking everything, not caring about so-called love and children, and in the previous life, as a sword immortal, she was even more proud and arrogant, disregarding all the heroes of the world with a sword in hand, only pursuing the supreme path of the sword. She never expected to be defeated by Su Changsheng this time and even become pregnant with his child. Not only that, but also together with Yue. Lu Qingchan looked at the innocent Chuyu beside him, secretly sighing in his heart, feeling a bit embarrassed and excited. Because Su Changsheng often had some special ways of playing, such as the master-disciple relationship. Wow, Qingchan, do I have another little sister now? At this moment, a surprised cry came from Qingge, who leaned over, with a childish and beautiful face full of astonishment. Although she was only 3 or 4 years old, her appearance was already comparable to that of a 10-year-old child. She was nearly 1.6 meters tall, with an extremely beautiful face, exuding both elegance and softness, possessing the advantages of both Changsheng and Qingge, making her unbelievably beautiful. If she fully grew up, she would become a stunning beauty that would shake the world. Yes, you will have another little sister in the future, but you must not bully her, Qingchan said gently. Don't worry, I definitely won't. I will treat my little sister as the most precious treasure. Qingge patted her chest proudly. Such innocent words brought about light laughter from the group of women, all of whom were incredibly beautiful, dazzling to the point of being blinding. Any one of them would make the goddesses and fairies of the outside world pale in comparison. The heavenly maidens of the Buddhist sect are so pure. On the other side, Changsheng walked out of the room, his face showing a sighing expression. It's no wonder he could captivate that young man with dragon horns to the point of being infatuated, even going so far as to set up a scheme to win over the clear sound heavenly maiden. The charm within it was truly astonishing. Changsheng, come over here. Just as Changsheng was feeling amazed, a voice transmission sounded, and it was Qingge. Changsheng was somewhat surprised, but quickly took a step forward and arrived at a courtyard. In a small pavilion, Qingge was sitting there, dressed in white, with an unparalleled beauty and a cold gaze. At this moment, she was quietly looking into the distance. The gentle breeze blew, causing her long hair to flutter slightly. The surrounding lake water was clear and sparkling, with surging spiritual energy. Willow branches hung down, and flowers swayed, exuding a stunning beauty. This natural scenery, combined with the serene Qingge, formed a perfect integration, like a beautiful fairy painting that made people reluctant to look away. Even though Changsheng had married many stunning goddesses, when he saw this scene, he couldn't help but be moved. Qingge was his first wife, and that would never change in this lifetime. Qingge, I'm here. Changsheng thought in his heart, but his steps were not slow, and he arrived by Qingge's side with just one step, gently saying, "You're here, isn't the land of tenderness nice?" Hearing this, Qingge turned her head, softly responding, then lightly hummed, her gaze sharp and playful. Is she reproaching him for his absurdity this past month? Changsheng felt a bit subtle. Could it be that Qingge is jealous? But he has been like this not just this past month, but often in the past. Not bad. Changsheng remained silent for a moment, then admitted frankly. He didn't think Qingge would be angry because of this. Humph. Changsheng, are you interested in the Emperor's tomb? Qingge also noticed this and gave a light hum, not clinging to the topic, but bringing up another one, the Emperor's tomb. Changsheng was moved, his gaze flickering. In this world, anything related to the existence of an emperor is earth-shattering. Even if it's just a quasi-emperor, it is incredibly astonishing, beyond imagination. Just like the strand of Quasi-Emperor's divine sense from before, it shook the entire divine realm, capable of obliterating everything, and that was just a strand of Quasi-Emperor's divine sense. If it were a true Quasi-Emperor, it's unimaginable. Not to mention a great emperor. Naturally interested, madam. I wonder what kind of existence the Emperor's tomb is. Changsheng smiled faintly. Honestly speaking, he doesn't need the opportunities in the Emperor's tomb to enhance his strength. Just taking concubines, having children, and developing his family is enough. Just like now, in less than 10 years, he has the strength of a great saint overlord and even possesses an immortal physique. This is more heaven-defying than any opportunities in the Emperor's tomb. But since Qingge took the initiative to bring it up, she must also want to quickly enhance her strength. Chapter 78 Descendants of Azure Emperor Yen Ruyu, little friend, do you want a wife? You are listening at novelfull.audio. This is an extremely perfect woman. She is dressed in white, pure as snow, her black hair dances lightly, and her eyes have a dreamlike color flowing between them. Her facial features are delicate, almost flawlessly perfect, unbelievably beautiful, with a curvaceous figure and a misty haze surrounding her, just like a fairy in the limbo realm. When her eyes blink, they are extremely dazzling, as if they can see through everything in the world. At this moment, she is showing a look of joy. Her eyes misting over, as if she wants to shed tears. I can feel it, that is the aura of the great emperor ancestor, the power of his bloodline. This might be the location of the emperor's tomb, that the perfect woman trembles as she speaks. She is extremely excited. Beside her, the people around her all show expressions of astonishment. Several attendants who follow the woman have never seen their princess behave like this before. The tomb of that person has really been found. Beside the perfect woman, an old man trembles, his tone urgent and excited, his eyes shining with terrifying colors like the sun. The old man is very powerful, wearing a golden robe and possessing a golden staff, like a deity. With his aura circulating, he could practically tear apart the heavens and earth. This is undoubtedly a great saint. The tomb of the Azure Emperor, is it finally going to be found? How many years have we spent on this? If that person hadn't mysteriously disappeared back then, the imperial court wouldn't have declined so rapidly and been destroyed by others. Now that we have found the tomb of the Azure Emperor, if we can find the Azure Emperor's weapon, our Azure Emperor lineage will have the capital to rise again. One by one, the powerful individuals speak excitedly. They are all attendants who follow the perfect woman, each one of them strong, at least a saint king. Among them, there are also two great saints, a man and a woman, both wearing blue robes, both ancient relics. Ruyu, let's act quickly. I'm worried that opening the tomb of the Azure Emperor will attract strong individuals in this place. Beside them, a golden-haired young man speaks. He is very handsome, wearing golden clothes, his eyes shining, his aura terrifying, like a fearsome golden-winged divine peng, or rather, his true form is a golden-winged peng, with pure bloodline, far surpassing the offspring of the heavenly Azure King. Let uncle take us to the tomb of the Azure Emperor and get the Emperor weapon as soon as possible, then we can retreat. At this moment, the blonde young man's gaze fell upon the perfect woman, filled with intense desire, his tone carrying concern. Jinyu, the saint child, need not worry. This place is merely a continent with few strong individuals. Moreover, the Emperor weapon is an extraordinary existence. Apart from the Azure Emperor lineage, no one else can take it away. The perfect woman's eyebrows furrowed slightly, then relaxed, seemingly displeased with the young man's closeness. Her tone, however, remained cold. I was just saying. Even if there were opponents vying for it, our senior members could easily handle it. The blonde young man chuckled. His name was Jinyu, the saint child of the Jin Emperor lineage, lofty and revered, a peerless genius in this realm. Your Highness, let us depart. A great saint dressed in a blue robe spoke to the perfect woman. Very well. The perfect woman nodded, then took a step forward, leading her followers towards the location of the Emperor's tomb. Saint child, it seems that Yen Ruyu does not like us. As the perfect woman left first, the blonde old man from earlier frowned and transmitted his voice to Jinyu, the saint child. She's just a descendant of the fallen Azure Emperor, along with two old immortals, the great saints. If it weren't for some old monsters in the Kunlun Holy Temple still mentioning that Azure Emperor, why would I be so polite to her? I would have taken her forcefully long ago. Upon hearing this, Jinyu's face immediately darkened. He looked at the perfect woman and her group, who had already disappeared, his eyes filled with coldness. Saint child, what should we do? The blonde old man asked in a low voice. Although he was a great saint, he still had to lower his head in front of Jinyu. He was not the only one here. There were two others, all great saints, making a total of 3. According to what my father said, Yen Ruyu's imperial bloodline is very pure, comparable to the 3rd generation. Coupled with her possession of the sacred body, if I obtain her body, it would be extremely beneficial for me. Jinyu transmitted his voice, his gaze filled with greed. This wretched woman is using me, but am I not using her as well? My father passed down the immortal soldier technique to me, specializing in controlling the extreme Tao Emperor weapon. Although it is only a fragment, I am more than capable of controlling the Azure Lotus Emperor weapon. When the time comes, a mere descendant of the Azure Emperor will be at the mercy of this saint child. Jinyu sneered coldly, his heart filled with insatiable greed, longing to possess Yen Ryu, not only because her bloodline would greatly benefit him, but also because of her appearance and status. which could be described as perfect. This gives him a great desire for conquest. Let's go. Let's explore the tomb first. If there are outsiders, we'll kill them all. After we finish with the imperial tomb and take down that despicable person, we'll swallow 1 or 2 human kingdoms to vent our anger, Jinyu said, with a hint of ferocious killing intent flashing in his eyes. He had been completely ignored by Yen Ruyu, which made him extremely unhappy. Since he couldn't make a move on Yen Ruyu in the short term, he decided to kill some humans later. It's a good opportunity to swallow a few human kingdoms. Anyway, there aren't many strong people on this continent, at most just a few saints. We can eat them all together. Let's go. Soon, a group of people followed. Your Highness, that saint child seems to have ill intentions towards you. In the front, a green-robed great saint transmitted his voice to the perfect woman, Yen Ruyu, with a somewhat worried tone. I know. Yen Ruyu responded calmly, but for now, our lineage is still too weak. We need to rely on some old forces to stand firm. She sighed lightly, her eyes filled with sadness. Once upon a time, the Azure Emperor's lineage was so glorious, revered for eternity, ruling countless vast territories and divine realms. Within the clan, there were 2 extreme Tao Emperor weapons, countless Quasi-Emperors, and numerous great saints. There were also quite a few supremes. Unfortunately, with the disappearance and fall of the Azure Emperor's ancestors, the clan's emperor weapons also disappeared. The subsequent turmoil, rebellions, and the rise of the 2 powerful demon emperor lineages united to destroy the imperial demon court. Since then, the Azure Emperor's lineage has declined. Until now, there are only a few descendants left, and she is the purest among them. But it doesn't matter. As long as we obtain the inheritance and emperor weapons of the Azure Emperor's ancestors, the Azure Emperor's lineage will have the capital to rise again. The perfect woman's eyes were filled with excitement. Extreme Tao Emperor weapons. Once they possess the emperor weapons, they will not fear even facing quasi-emperors, and they may even have the qualifications to escape from the hands of supremes. In this way, the Azure Emperor lineage truly has the capital to rise and no longer needs to rely on others. Here we are. Soon, Yen Ruyu arrived first, and Jinyu and the others quickly sensed it as well. Looking at the huge vortex that appeared, they were all awakened by the faint imperial aura emanating from it. At first, they were not very certain, but as they got closer and felt the fluctuations emanating from it, although extremely weak, that power that surpassed everything and seemed to trample upon all made them unable to help but tremble and feel suffocated. There was no doubt that it was the aura of an emperor. This is the tomb of the Azure Emperor. Ancestor of the Azure Emperor. Yen Ruyu's expression was excited. The closer she got, the more intense the reaction in her body became. A sense of bloodline connection came, constantly pulling her, almost making her shed tears. That was the ancestor of the great emperor. Boom! At this moment, a violent tremor came from within the vortex, as if there was a huge creature shaking inside, causing everyone's expressions to change. Not good, someone has already gone in first, a green-robed great saint exclaimed, and Yen Ruyu's pretty face tightened as she urgently spoke. Quick, let's go in. Boom. Without hesitation, the group rushed in one after another, and the majestic divine might tore through, quickly descending. How interesting, is this the tomb of the Azure Emperor? On the other side, Changsheng arrived at the Azure Emperor's tomb with Qingge and couldn't help but reveal astonishment. Although it was called a tomb, it was actually a vast and boundless small world, with stars and sun and moon in the sky, and at the end ahead, there was a towering imperial palace emitting the aura of a great emperor. It wasn't strong, but the aura within it was enough to make an ordinary great saint unable to help but kneel and tremble in awe. Let's go. Changsheng released his aura to protect Qingge, then immediately rushed towards the imperial palace. Throughout the journey, there were no crises encountered. Even when entering the imperial palace, there was still no movement, completely silent. This made Changsheng somewhat surprised. Really, there is no danger at all. No wonder Qingge said that the Azure Emperor's tomb is very safe. Good stuff. That the Azure Emperor's palace is vast, with countless palaces, most of which are empty, but a few palaces contain many divine objects, seemingly randomly placed by the owner. Among these divine objects, some are of extremely high grade, causing Su Changsheng's eyes to light up involuntarily. Those are great saint level, even Quasi-Emperor level divine objects, such as a piece of crimson blood god gold iron, which is a Quasi-Emperor grade divine material, of extremely high value, but it is casually placed in a palace, with a size of more than 10 meters. This sight amazed Su Changsheng. Just this piece alone would make a Quasi-Emperor jealous. In addition, there are many rare divine objects that can nourish the primordial spirit and shape the physical body. This is of great help in restoring the Empress and shaping her physical body. Only the reincarnation divine water is missing. In the end, only the final reincarnation divine water is needed to revive the Empress and shape her physical body. In addition, Su Ziyuan's reincarnation Dao pupil also needs the help of the reincarnation divine water. No wonder it's the Azure Emperor. Although these are just some casually placed materials, they are enough for me to cultivate to the great saint level. Qingge beside him was very excited. In this life, she is going to embark on the path of true invincibility. Even with Su Changsheng's help, the resources are still not enough. Now, with the supplement of the Azure Emperor's tomb, there will be no worries about cultivating the great saint realm. Boom. Not long after, Su Changsheng brought Qingge to the deepest part of the imperial palace, inside a huge palace. This place was very empty, with only a blood pool. The blood pool displayed 7 colors, with various radiance flowing, filled with astonishing fluctuations. Countless symbols flickered and occasionally transformed into terrifying beasts or divine shadows, emitting a terrifying aura. On the other side of the blood pool, an azure lotus floated, with green light flowing within, suppressing a heart. In the trembling of that heart, every vibration emitted an imperial might, but it did not contain any destructive fluctuations. It was calm, yet incomparably powerful. Azure Emperor's soldiers, the heart of the Demon Emperor, the blood pool of the Demon Emperor. Seeing this scene, a hint of burning color flickered in Qingge's eyes, and she felt excited. She had heard about the Azure Emperor's tomb in her previous life. There was a beast race genius who not only obtained the baptism of the Demon Emperor's blood pool to strengthen his body, but also obtained the heart of the Demon Emperor and the Azure Emperor's soldiers. He soared to the sky and became an unparalleled genius, rising all the way to eventually become an emperor. At that time, she had already risen and become the Empress of myriad tribulations. When she heard this news, she was only slightly surprised but didn't care much. She just sighed at the favor of the heavens. But this time, it was her turn, and she couldn't help but feel excited because she was the chosen one this time. Is this the joy of snatching someone else's opportunity? Azure Emperor. Su Changsheng was also somewhat surprised, but he didn't let his guard down. His gaze became slightly serious as he looked at the Azure Lotus. Within it, he sensed a gaze. Could it be the Azure Emperor? Buzz. Just as Su Changsheng was filled with doubt, a figure appeared from within the Azure Lotus. With his appearance, an immense imperial might filled the air. Boom! The space trembled, and all the myriad Tao dissipated, leaving only a majestic Tao that suppressed everything and ruled over all, as if it were the master of all paths. Any living being, even a Quasi-Emperor, couldn't help but kneel down in this presence. Even though the figure was just an illusion, it couldn't even display a trace of true supreme divine might. However, among the two present, one was the reincarnation of the Empress of Destiny, whose achievements in the previous life even surpassed the Azure Emperor. The other was the myriad tribulations' indestructible original demon physique, an unparalleled immortal physique with extraordinary talent, completely unaffected by the pressure of the illusion. Therefore, both of them ignored the imperial might of the illusion. Azure Emperor. Qingge's gaze fell on the figure, her expression showing little surprise, only indifference as she spoke. After all, it is the tomb of a great emperor. It would be strange if the other party didn't leave any tricks behind. I didn't expect that the arrangements I casually left behind back then would not be inherited by future generations, but instead attract 2 monsters. The phantom of the Azure Emperor chuckled lightly. He was a middle-aged man with a handsome and refined face, not in the same style as Su Changsheng's beauty, but far surpassing it. He already had a transcendent temperament. At this moment, he was looking at the two of them with an astonished expression. One with an immortal physique, and one with a myriad tribulations' indestructible body. They are truly monsters. The Azure Emperor couldn't help but sigh. Even he, as a dignified great emperor, who was considered supreme in the ancient era, was shocked by the two of them. If it was just the myriad tribulations' indestructible body, it would still be fine. As a great emperor, he naturally wouldn't be overly surprised. But if it was the immortal physique, that would be terrifying. Even in his era, it was considered a legendary physique that was difficult to appear in many eras, and if two such physiques appeared together, the effect would not be as simple as 1 + 1, it would even shock the great emperors. Azure Emperor, I want your inheritance. Will you give it to me? Seeing the astonished expression on the Azure Emperor's face, Qingge's expression remained calm. She spoke bluntly, facing this ancient great emperor, any false flattery or promises would be meaningless. It was better to be simple and direct, and get straight to the point. If he disagreed, then she would forcefully take it. The inheritance left behind by this emperor was originally meant for future generations to use. If you don't want it, why leave it behind? Upon hearing this, the Azure Emperor didn't get angry, he just smiled lightly. Moreover, the two of you have such high talents that even this emperor has never seen before. It is normal for you to surpass this emperor in the future. Giving the inheritance to the two of you is not a waste. The Azure Emperor continued to speak, clapping his hands. But, this emperor is not a person who disregards future generations. There is a descendant of this emperor's bloodline here. It seems that he has also come for this emperor's inheritance. If everything is given to the two of you, it would be too cold-hearted for the future generations. What do you want to say? Changsheng raised his eyebrows and spoke before Qingge could say anything. He didn't want to make a wasted trip, he wanted to obtain at least half of the heritage here, and the Lien Emperor weapon as well. If Azure Emperor was unwilling, then he wouldn't hesitate to use the Emperor's jar to forcefully take it. However, the next words from Azure Emperor made Changsheng show a strange expression involuntarily. Young friend, do you want your wife or not? Azure Emperor laughed loudly, looking at Changsheng with an appreciative gaze, as if he was very satisfied. Changsheng fell silent. If it weren't for Azure Emperor's behavior not resembling that of a transmigrator, he would have asked if the other party was a transmigrator. This sentence was too familiar. System, is Azure Emperor a transmigrator? Changsheng asked the system in his mind after thinking for a moment. No, there is no second transmigrator in this realm. The voice of the system sounded, dispelling Changsheng's doubts. What do you mean by this? That while Changsheng was asking the system in his mind, Qingge's pretty face had already turned cold, with a glint of coldness in her eyes, to openly snatch her man in front of her. It seemed like he didn't regard her highly, introducing a wife. With her around, that was impossible. Naturally it is to find a good husband for the descendants of this emperor. Azure Emperor laughed heartily. As long as the young friend agrees, both of you will obtain the heritage of this place. You only need to leave some blood pool heritage for the descendants of this emperor. In addition, this emperor can give you a piece of information for free. Information about the ancient heavenly court. What do you two think? Chapter 79 Empress Qingge is acting like a spoiled child, cut off Quasi-Emperor again, Prince. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The inheritance of the ancient heavenly court. Changsheng's expression was a bit strange, and this Azure Emperor is too generous. Not only does he want to give him a wife, but he also plans to give him the inheritance information of the ancient heavenly court. But after thinking about it for a moment, Changsheng understood why. The Azure Emperor here is ultimately just a phantom, and how much power he has is another matter. Faced with Changsheng, who possesses the Emperor weapon, it is not certain that he can contend. If they really wanted to forcefully take it, the Azure Emperor might not be able to stop them. In addition, the physique of Changsheng and the two of them is rare in ancient and modern times. The luck of this physique is destined to be extraordinary. With the protection of the luck from the heavens, they will definitely rise in the future. Since they can't stop it and their aptitude is so extraordinary, the Azure Emperor is not stupid and naturally won't forcefully prevent it. Instead, he goes along with it, not only selling a good deal but also finding an extraordinary husband for his descendants. However, saying these things in front of Qingge, wouldn't it cause a falling out? Changsheng smiled helplessly. this proud Empress, facing the Azure Emperor's way of giving a wife in front of her, is probably going to be angry. Just as he was about to speak and appease Qingge, he heard her voice. I have agreed on his behalf. Su Changsheng looked surprised and looked at Qingge, only to see her smiling and her eyes filled with cunning. It seems that the plot has succeeded. Could it be? The previous reaction was just to deceive the Azure Emperor again and get more benefits. Su Changsheng felt a bit strange. What's wrong? You have a descendant of a great emperor marrying you, and there is a large dowry. Aren't you satisfied, my good husband? It seemed that Qingge sensed Su Changsheng's thoughts, and her voice echoed in his mind. Her tone was gentle and coquettish, especially the last words, good husband. They carried a great power, even more terrifying than the aura of a quasi-emperor, piercing through Su Changsheng's heart like an emperor weapon. His body felt a little weak. This was the first time he had heard Qingge act spoiled during normal times. This Empress of Destiny, who appeared calm and cold on the surface, was actually extremely arrogant. It was almost impossible to make her act spoiled, but this time, Su Changsheng heard it. Very satisfied. If only we could do it again. Su Changsheng couldn't help but respond with joy. Humph. However, all Su Changsheng got was a light snort, and then there was no sound from Qingge. Fine, she's being willful again. Su Changsheng felt a bit helpless. It seemed that there was still a long way to go if he wanted to completely soften Qingge and make her act like a little woman. Ha ha ha, what an extraordinary woman. If you were in my era, you would definitely be an unparalleled empress, not inferior to anyone. Azure Emperor laughed heartily. He seemed to see through something, with an undisguised admiration in his eyes. These two people were too extraordinary, not only in terms of talent, but also in other aspects. They were all terrifying, especially that woman. Although her talent was slightly weaker, the feeling she gave him was like facing a peerless great emperor of the same level. This amazed him. Humph, why would I need to be in your era? Even in the present era, I can still walk the path of true invincibility, standing shoulder to shoulder with the ancient heavenly emperor, or even surpassing him. Qingge snorted coldly, completely ignoring Azure Emperor's feelings, and proudly lifted her chin. This time, it was Azure Emperor's turn to be stunned. He stared at Qingge in astonishment, his face filled with surprise. After a while, he sighed lightly, his expression complicated. I was mistaken. It turns out you are a reincarnation of a fellow practitioner, truly making me envious. Azure Emperor exclaimed with envy, a peak great emperor reincarnated with memories and possessing an unparalleled physique. What an incredible opportunity this is. Even the mighty Azure Emperor, a great emperor of unparalleled strength, would envy it. It can be anticipated that as long as Qingge continues on her path step by step, she will eventually be able to return to the peak, become invincible in this lifetime, and surpass the realm of her previous life. With the fusion of two Tao fruits from 2 lifetimes, even becoming an immortal is possible. Humph, when I was at my peak, I was stronger than you. Alright, enough talk. I agree to your conditions, so quickly hand over the inheritance and information. Qingge snorted lightly, not caring about this, but rather showing impatience and speaking in an extremely dominant manner. This was the first time Su Changsheng had seen Qingge act so domineeringly, not giving any face to a great emperor. This appearance, truly befitting of her unmatched dominance, worthy of being the future empress of myriad tribulations. It seems that it was a good thing to intercept her early on. If it had been any later, it's uncertain whether she could have been suppressed. Haha, so be it. This is ultimately not the era of an old fossil like me. This is the era of you young people. I hope you can carry my inheritance even further and spread my brilliance. The Azure Emperor laughed with a complex expression, then pointed his finger, and 2 primordial spirit messages projected towards them, intending to enter their sea of consciousness. Seeing this, Su Changsheng's brows furrowed. Boom. The town Immortal Emperor jar appeared, an aura of emperor grade surged forth, and its divine might inspected the primordial spirit messages. After confirming that there was no danger, it allowed the messages to enter their sea of consciousness. Although this was an opportunity bestowed by the Azure Emperor, he was ultimately an ancient great emperor. Su Changsheng couldn't guarantee absolute safety and could only choose to eliminate the danger. Qingge also understood this and waited for Changsheng to finish inspecting before closing her eyes and accepting the information. That Empress's Emperor jar, that the Azure Emperor's expression changed. Although it was only half of it, he recognized the extreme Tao Emperor weapon that Changsheng was operating. It was none other than the Emperor weapon of that peerless Empress from the ancient heavenly court. This made him sigh, truly worthy of being an unparalleled monster with an immortal physique, actually possessing the Emperor weapon of that Empress. Such incredible luck, but it's also good this way. Changsheng is getting better and better against the odds, and his descendants will also receive great benefits and blessings in the future. Perhaps they might even surpass their ancestors. It turns out that place is the inheritance site of the ancient heavenly court. It seems that I need to grow faster. At this moment, Qingge opened her eyes, her expression quite complex. As far as she knew, that place had only appeared less than 100 years ago. No wonder the news of the ancient heavenly court had spread far and wide before her rise, but she had never seen it. It seemed that someone had intercepted it ahead of time, but since she had obtained it, she would never let others have it this time. The inheritance of the ancient heavenly emperor. Changsheng also received the information, but he only glanced at it and didn't pay much attention. In his opinion, it would be more practical to send more goddesses with top-grade constitutions. However, perhaps the inheritance site of the ancient heavenly court might also have remnants left behind by other goddesses or empresses, just like the remnant soul of that imperial concubine. Changsheng felt a little excited in his heart. It is worth mentioning, among the information given by the Azure Emperor about the primordial spirit, there is not only the inheritance information of the ancient heavenly court, but also the inheritance of the Azure Emperor himself, as well as the Azure Lotus Emperor scripture and the 9 slashes of the Demon Emperor. It is the unparalleled divine technique created by him, capable of slaying gods and immortals, with 9 styles that can be used together, even capable of slaying great emperors. The Azure Emperor has used the 9 slashes of the Demon Emperor to kill more than one great emperor. It is worthy of the Azure Emperor. This imperial law is truly formidable. Changsheng sighed inwardly. It is no less inferior to the Heavenly Star Emperor scripture, which shows the strength of the Azure Emperor. Alright, the inheritance has been given to you. You can take everything here, including this Emperor weapon and the heart. After seeing both of them receiving the memories, the Azure Emperor immediately smiled and said, "This heart was formed by refining the essence of a Demon Emperor and the essence of the Great Tao after I killed a Demon Emperor back then. Once refined, it can create a supreme. The same goes for this blood pool. It can cleanse the physical body and transform the aptitude of cultivators. When combined, they can completely create a supreme powerhouse with the potential to impact the Great Emperor." Then, he pointed to the heart and the blood pool, explaining proudly, this is what he left behind back then, wanting to try if he could create a great emperor. Unfortunately, I had an accident back then and urgently needed a large amount of energy to recover. As a result, I took away most of the energy, and now I am no longer in my prime. But what I can give you now is still usable. It is enough to greatly enhance your strength. Young friend, you just need to leave a little blood pool for my descendants. Azure Emperor shook his head with a regretful tone, then looked at Changsheng with a smile. At that time, I will still rely on you, young friend, to take care of my descendants. Okay, Changsheng nodded and agreed, not only because Azure Emperor gave him great benefits, but also because she was his fiancée and future wife. Naturally, he would treat her well. Good, I believe in you, young friend. Now that the conversation has come to this point, it's time for me to dissipate. After all, I am just an old relic. This era is not suitable for me. Azure Emperor laughed heartily. Soon, his figure gradually dissipated and finally turned into countless dots of light, disappearing. Farewell, a generation's great emperor. Changsheng could also sense that Azure Emperor had indeed dissipated and sighed in his heart, bowing respectfully. At the same time, he also firmly made up his mind, even someone as powerful as Azure Emperor had dissipated in the flow of time. If he wanted to live forever, to exist eternally, and even surpass the heavens, he needed to work even harder. First, set a small goal, then marry 100 goddesses and have 1,000 children. Changsheng silently thought in his heart. Qingge's expression was also complicated as she watched an ancient great emperor dissipate in front of her. Although he left in a carefree manner, it was inevitable that she would be touched. In her previous life, she also had a few close friends, all of them were empresses, and they all perished in front of her, but that was in the previous life. In this life, she was destined not to let all of this happen. Qingge, are you okay? Changsheng snapped back to reality and saw Qingge with a complex expression and a nostalgic look in her eyes. He immediately asked. I'm fine, ready to accept the baptism of the blood pool. Qingge shook her head, her eyes looking at the massive blood pool, burning with intensity. This was her goal in coming here. As long as she absorbed the blood pool and heart of the demon emperor, even if it couldn't compare to her peak period, it would still greatly enhance her strength, and breaking through to the saint level would be an easy task, and with the remaining energy, she could gradually reach the realm of the great saint. In the future, it could be said that before reaching the Quasi-Emperor level, Qingge didn't need to worry about cultivation anymore. Qingge, let's not rush. A few friends have just arrived. Changsheng lightly smiled and stopped her. Qingge furrowed her eyebrows, remembering Azure Emperor's previous words, and looked towards the outside. Because of Azure Emperor Dao Palace, her divine sense was greatly suppressed, and with her divine sense, she couldn't extend very far, so she didn't sense anything abnormal, but Changsheng could clearly sense it. In the distance, more than 10 auras were rapidly approaching, among them were several powerful beings at the Great Saint realm. In addition, there was an aura emitting a similar energy to Azure Emperor. Undoubtedly, that was the descendant of Azure Emperor. Boom! Before long, within the Imperial Palace, a violent and intense shaking sound came, accompanied by terrifying auras. More than 10 figures broke in one after another. Gasp! Are those Azure Emperor's soldiers? There's no mistake, I've seen them in ancient records. That is one of Azure Emperor's 2 Emperor weapons, the Azure Lotus Emperor weapon. And, that heart, is it the heart of the Demon Emperor? And the blood pool of the Demon Emperor? This is an incredible opportunity. If refined, wouldn't it be possible to directly ascend to the Quasi-Emperor level? Exclamations filled with shock resounded, their tones filled with greed. Ruyu was also shaken, but her gaze immediately fell on Changsheng and Qingge. Her intuition told her that these two people were not ordinary, especially Changsheng, gave her an extremely terrifying feeling, almost no weaker than that Golden Emperor. Your Highness, this is the opportunity left by the Azure Emperor's ancestors. Seize it quickly and don't let that guy Yu get ahead. A voice of an old man came to Ruyu's ears, surprisingly one of the Qingpao great saints. He was very excited. Don't rush, those two are not simple. Ryu remained calm. Years of fugitive life, coupled with the pressure brought by the decline of the Azure Emperor's lineage, had cultivated her calm personality even when facing extraordinary opportunities. Even though the Azure Emperor's inheritance was right in front of her, seemingly within reach, she remained calm and did not rush forward. Kill the man, leave the woman. However, Ryu was calm, but Yu couldn't hold back. His eyes were greedy, and he immediately ordered. He noticed the woman beside Changsheng, who was extremely stunning and beautiful, not inferior to Ryu. He immediately had the idea of keeping her. Yes, Lord Saint Child. Behind him, the 3 great saints did not hesitate. They successively extended a sky-covering giant hand, displaying their unparalleled divine ability, covering the heavens and the earth, intending to join forces to suppress Changsheng. In their perception, Changsheng was only an ordinary great saint realm, with a weak aura. The floating black lid beside him was also extremely ordinary, making them sneer at it. Presumably, he was just a great saint who had the good fortune to find an emperor's tomb, extremely poor, but since their luck was bad enough to run into them, then they could only die. Ha ha ha, madam, your charm is truly great. I feel a bit burdened by you. On the other side, seeing this scene, Changsheng couldn't help but lightly laugh. However, his smile seemed somewhat cold. Stop the nonsense, they're just a few pieces of trash. Do you still want to make me wait for a long time? Qingge frowned. Sorry to trouble you. However, she seemed to have sensed the coldness in Changsheng's words. knowing that he was angry because of the young man's words. Her lips curled up, revealing a beautiful smile. "Good husband." Immediately after, she whispered again. "Good, with madam's words, I will slap them to death with one palm." Upon hearing this, Changsheng burst into laughter, and a terrifying aura erupted from his body. Boom! In an instant, Changsheng transformed directly from a small white rabbit into an ancient and ferocious Tyrannosaurus Rex, with a terrifying and earth-shattering power that frightened everyone present. "Great Saint Overlord," the golden-haired old man exclaimed in fear, his expression filled with shock. They had actually provoked a great Saint Overlord, which was simply seeking death. Boom! In the next moment, Changsheng slapped directly, crushing the three people with absolute power, instantly reducing their primordial spirits to ashes. Clang! Then, Changsheng's eyes turned cold as he swept towards the shocked golden universe. Two terrifying divine lights shot out like two unparalleled heavenly swords, slashing down. An unparalleled sense of death crisis spread. Golden universe was extremely terrified, but his mind trembled and he couldn't resist. He could only watch as the divine light fell. Outrageous! At this moment, a terrifying Quasi-Emperor's divine might burst forth from golden universe, accompanied by a golden phantom appearing. A majestic voice sounded. "Who dares to be so insolent?" However, an even more majestic force suppressed him, rumbling like heavenly might. Boom! The town Immortal Emperor's jar erupted, and an aura of extreme imperial might spread, tearing through the heavens and earth. With one strike, it fell down, shattering the shocked Quasi-Emperor's divine consciousness. Then, golden universe was also obliterated by the two divine lights. On the other side, the group of experts around Ruyu had long been frightened silly. "Not good, it's an extreme Tao Emperor weapon, let's go." Ruyu was the first to come to her senses and shouted, wanting to retreat. "Ha ha ha, princess, please stay." Chapter 80, Ruyu's approval, bloodline going berserk. Double cultivation again, the Dragon Lady. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Why rush so much? Changsheng laughed heartily. He held the Emperor's jar in his hand, exuding the imposing aura of a great saint, as if he were a great emperor reigning supreme. Boom! The palace seemed to explode, as various terrifying energies ravaged the area, as if opening up the heavens and recreating the world. If it weren't for the fact that this was the Emperor's palace, with the power left behind by the Azure Emperor protecting it, it would have long been torn apart and destroyed by the divine might of the extreme path. Several powerful individuals brought by Ruyu, including two great saints, were extremely terrified, their souls trembling with fear. This scene was too frightening. Who could have imagined that a seemingly young human great saint would burst forth with the strength of a great saint overlord, not only slapping three great saints to death with a single palm, but also unleashing the divine might of the extreme path, instantly killing the Emperor's divine consciousness. Such terrifying strength was akin to the arrival of an ancient great emperor, sweeping through the entire scene. "Quick, take his highness and leave." A great saint in a green robe suddenly realized this and immediately shouted, entrusting another female great saint. Then, he erupted with a powerful aura, radiating countless brilliance, like a green sun, exuding boundless divine might. He charged straight towards Changsheng. "Kill!" He roared, countless divine abilities erupting, accompanied by the green divine light. Among them, a majestic and grand great emperor's shadow appeared, capable of tearing apart the rivers of stars. If a great saint were to go all out, such power would be incredibly terrifying. "Uncle Qing." Ruyu couldn't help but tremble in her heart when she saw this scene, her beautiful eyes turning red. She had seen this situation more than once in the past years. "Fellow Taoist, why go all out like this?" Changsheng, seeing this, just smiled and pressed down with his hand, like a giant hand from the heavens, with the order of the great Tao swirling around it, truly awe-inspiring. Whether it was the majestic Emperor's shadow or the countless divine abilities, they were all suppressed by Changsheng's palm and dissipated completely. "Princess, since you've come, why be so polite and in such a hurry to leave?" Changsheng's gaze shifted and looked at Ruyu again. His voice resounded loudly. It was like the voice of the heavens trembling, causing a pale complexion on the faces of all the strong, including Ruyu. This kind of power was too terrifying. It didn't seem like that of a great saint, but that of a Quasi-Emperor. Truly worthy of an immortal physique. On the other side, Qingge also exclaimed, it should be noted that Changsheng, who was currently only at the first heaven of the Great Saint realm, had just recently broken through, but his combat power was comparable to that of a tyrant. Under a full outbreak, he could even kill a Quasi-Emperor's divine sense with a single sword. This kind of heaven-defying combat power was equivalent to that of a young prince at the ninth heaven realm. The so-called tyrant was actually a title for a young supreme or prince-level monster who had reached the pinnacle of the Great Saint realm, and Changsheng, who was only in the early stage of the Great Saint realm, possessed the combat power of a prince-level tyrant. Boom. In the midst of it all, Changsheng made another move, just a palm strike, and suppressed Ruyu and her group. No matter how they resisted, it was useless. In the end, everything was resolved. Ruyu, including the group of strong individuals, had their cultivation suppressed and were bound by Changsheng. Madam, it's done. Coming to Qingge's side, Changsheng smiled and said, on the other side, Ruyu's face was filled with misery as she fell into the hands of this extremely cruel human great saint. Her fate was probably going to be very tragic. Well, aren't you going to explain it to her? She seems to be quite frightened. Qingge responded softly, then raised her chin slightly and pointed to Ryu, who had a miserable and desperate expression, reminding him. What the madam said is true. Changsheng smiled and agreed. His previous display of power was actually intentional, just to scare Ryu, but now it seemed that he had scared her too much. Princess, how should I address you? Changsheng smiled and looked at Ryu. The reason he called her princess was because, as a descendant of the Azure Emperor, she was qualified to be called by that title. I am called Ryu. I don't know what it would take for you to let us go, Ryu said with a pale face, still somewhat frightened. She was still immersed in the shock from earlier and hadn't fully recovered yet. Ryu, what a nice name. Changsheng muttered, his gaze falling on her as he continued to smile. Princess, there's no need to be so afraid. If we're talking about relationships, you should address me as your future husband. What? That when these words came out, everyone was shocked, including Ryu, who was momentarily stunned and then became incredulous. No need to doubt, that's the truth. Beside them, Qingge spoke with a cold expression. Then, she raised her hand and projected a scene that had been intercepted earlier. It was the Azure Emperor's request to marry Ryu to Changsheng. Seeing the appearance that was exactly the same as recorded in ancient texts, and feeling the connection in their bloodline, Ryu's heart trembled and she couldn't help but want to kneel down and cry, after so many years of grievances and hardships. She really wanted to tell her ancestor, the Great Emperor. But unfortunately, before she could see the Great Emperor ancestor, he had already dissipated. Azure Emperor. It really is the Great Azure Emperor. Behind her, several powerful individuals who followed Ryu, including two great saints, knelt down excitedly. They were the descendants of the Azure Emperor's followers from back then, and they still faithfully followed the lineage of the Azure Emperor to this day. At this moment, seeing the projection of the Azure Emperor, they naturally felt extremely excited. Unfortunately, this was only an intercepted projection and wouldn't respond to them. It dissipated shortly after. This left them feeling regretful. However, they were ultimately powerful individuals with firm determination, quickly recovering from their pain, but the look in their eyes when they looked at Changsheng and the others became filled with awe. They haven't forgotten, these two individuals are people even the Azure Emperor himself values, and Changsheng, in particular, was personally designated by the Azure Emperor as the future husband of the princess. Just this fact alone is enough to make them extremely awed. We have seen the highness of the Eternal Life Palace. Soon, a group of powerful individuals all kneeled down, their tone filled with respect. Ryu also had a complicated expression on her face, her gaze shifting towards Changsheng, feeling conflicted in her heart. Having traveled the world for many years, she had long abandoned emotions in order to revive the Azure Emperor's lineage, focusing solely on restoring the imperial court and having no interest in romantic relationships, not to mention someone from the human race whom she had only met once. However, this was a marriage alliance personally designated by the Great Emperor's ancestors, and she couldn't refuse it. Moreover, she was facing a great saint overlord and a human powerhouse who possessed an emperor weapon. It seemed that she had no capital to resist. "Princess, now you should know how to address me, right?" Changsheng smiled and said to Yen Ruyu, who had a complicated expression and was hesitant to speak. It must be said that Yen Ruyu was indeed perfect, with delicate features to the extreme, without a trace of flaw, truly beautiful like a celestial immortal, flawless. In addition, she exuded a mysterious temperament, ethereal and elusive, like a fairy in a dream, resembling an immortal, ethereal and unpredictable. Even Qingge, relying solely on appearance, couldn't overshadow her, only able to rely on her identity as the Empress to surpass her to some extent. Upon hearing this, Yen Ruyu's heart jumped violently. She took a step back, her lips trembling, her eyelashes fluttering incessantly, and her flawless face blushing slightly, like the red glow of a setting sun. "Incredibly beautiful, husband. Highness of the Eternal Life Palace." Yen Ryu stammered with her lips and tongue, but in the end, she couldn't pronounce that embarrassing title, so she could only use the same address as everyone else. However, this was already close to acceptance. "Good. Since Yuer has already acknowledged my identity, from now on, stay by my side." Changsheng smiled satisfactorily, then waved his hand, releasing everyone from their restraints. The shackles on the bodies of the powerful individuals dissipated, and they all breathed a sigh of relief, standing up and looking at Changsheng with awe in their eyes. It was too terrifying. This Crown Prince of Changsheng is absolutely terrifying. "Ah, right, Crown Prince of Changsheng, the golden-haired youth you killed earlier, named Jinyu, is a descendant of the Qingge lineage of the Kunlun Holy Temple. His father is a powerful Quasi-Emperor. Please be careful." Perhaps because she recognized Changsheng's identity, Yen Ruyu's tone also became more intimate, her gaze falling on Changsheng as she spoke solemnly. Upon hearing her words, the faces of a group of powerful individuals also became serious, filled with fear. That Golden Emperor is not easy to provoke. As a Quasi-Emperor, he is already extremely terrifying, and within the Kunlun Holy Temple, his power is even greater. Now that his son has been killed by Changsheng, he will undoubtedly hold a grudge and will not let it go easily. Once he takes action, it will definitely be earth-shattering. "I know, but he's just a Quasi-Emperor, there's no need to be too afraid." Changsheng said with a faint smile. He had also heard of the power of the Kunlun Holy Temple. It is said to be a force formed by a group of very powerful beast race experts coming together. Although there is no true great emperor, it is still very formidable. With numerous Quasi-Emperors, its might can make even Aside's imperial court wary and unwilling to provoke easily. Of course, Changsheng didn't care about another Quasi-Emperor, even if they were stronger. After all, he had already killed the son of a prominent figure in the Crimson Blood imperial court. Now that he possessed 2 emperor weapons, his strength had increased even more. If that Golden Emperor dared to attack, he wouldn't mind truly slaughtering a Quasi-Emperor. It's good that the Crown Prince of Changsheng is confident. Seeing Changsheng so self-assured, and considering his previous strength and the fact that he possessed emperor weapons, Yen Ryu believed him to some extent. Moreover, Changsheng had become a great saint overlord at such a young age, so he probably had the support of a major power, very likely a prominent figure in an imperial court. One Golden Emperor might not be a cause for concern. Thinking of this, Yen Ryu also breathed a sigh of relief. Her heart, which had always been tense and uneasy, finally found some reliance and became much calmer. Now that the relationship has been established, it's time to accept the baptism of the blood pool. At this moment, Qingge's voice came, her gaze fixed on the blood pool of the Demon Emperor, as well as the heart of the Demon Emperor. She was very excited. Yen Ryu was also moved. Looking ahead with fiery eyes, she went through great hardships and tirelessly searched for the tomb of the great emperor ancestor, all for the purpose of enhancing her own strength and reviving the lineage of the Azure Emperor. "Alright, you all can leave now." Changsheng nodded, then his gaze swept over a group of powerful individuals as he gave his command. They wanted to undergo the baptism of the Demon Emperor's blood, but they needed to remove all their clothing and accept the power of the Demon Emperor's blood with a pure physical body. Changsheng did not allow outsiders to be present. "Yes. Please give flowers." The group of powerful individuals all respectfully retreated, although they also desired to receive the baptism, in the face of Changsheng, this terrifying figure who dared to kill even the sons of quasi-emperors, they naturally did not dare to disobey. Boom. Soon, the group of people exited the imperial palace, while Changsheng had a very serious expression. He moved his hands, setting up one terrifying formation after another. Divine light surged, radiance filled the sky, countless formations covered the heavens and earth, sealing off this space, with terrifying chaotic energy surging, making everything invisible. Boom. Changsheng pondered for a moment, then pointed his finger, and the imperial cauldron soared into the air. Strands of extreme Tao aura bloomed, divine light descended, like a sky-covering cloud, enveloping this heaven and earth. The originally indestructible formation, under the blessing of the extreme Tao Emperor weapon, became infinitely terrifying at this moment, as if it had fallen into boundless chaos, mysterious and unfathomable. Even if a quasi-emperor were here, it would take a considerable amount of time to break through the formation. Ruyu was greatly shocked by this scene, her small mouth slightly agape, once again realizing Changsheng's strength. "You are really cautious." Qingge glanced at Changsheng. How could she not see through his thoughts, the flaws of men? Of course, Changsheng smiled and said, his wife could only be seen by him alone. "Let's go, let's enter the blood pool." Changsheng beckoned the two of them to move forward. In the midst of it, a terrifying spiritual energy surged, waves of majestic and endless divine radiance, extremely terrifying. Among them, there is a surge of fragments of the great Tao, and any point is enough to make even a saint envious, if it weren't for the fact that the power within has been almost drained by the Azure Emperor. The power of this demonic emperor's blood pool alone would be enough to create an incredibly powerful individual with astonishing potential. Bang bang bang, 0, above, the heart of a demonic emperor trembles, with golden blood flowing within, dazzling and captivating, making it impossible to look away. "Let's begin." Qingge speaks first, taking the lead and removing her own clothes, revealing a flawless body, those dazzling curves. Even Ruyu, who is also a woman, finds it hard to look away. Soon, Changsheng does the same, and when it's Ruyu's turn, she hesitates for a while before blushing and taking off her clothes under Qingge's impatient gaze. It is also a body that is equally flawless, perfect to the extreme, which Changsheng admires for a while. It's not until Ruyu's face turns extremely red that he looks away. "Let me guide the essence blood." Changsheng says, "The power of the demonic emperor's blood pool is too terrifying. If they were to enter directly, let alone the two women, even Changsheng would not be able to withstand it for a while." Boom. Soon, Changsheng takes action, a huge divine power surges forth, guiding the essence blood in the blood pool, refining the blood of the demonic emperor, transforming it into the purest power that quickly envelopes the three of them. Countless divine lights, dazzling phenomena, and all kinds of unimaginable scenes emerge, the chanting of gods and demons, the influence of the ancient great emperors, and the battles of the ancient gods. Scene after scene appears, depicting the ultimate great Tao. Boom boom boom. The sound of the great Tao vibrates. Amidst the myriad of divine splendors, the cultivation of the three individuals continues to improve, and Ruyu's bloodline also undergoes sublimation and transformation, constantly ascending towards a purer bloodline. Buzz. In the middle of it all, Changsheng temporarily awakens, using the emperor weapon to suppress the heart of the demonic emperor, absorbing and refining the golden blood within, allowing the three of them to absorb it. Boom. Until a certain moment, Ryu couldn't bear it anymore. Her physical body and bloodline reached their peak at this moment, but the suddenly surging power of her bloodline was beyond her control. She went berserk immediately. Changsheng. Lord Changsheng. Ruyu's breathing became rapid. The bloodline of the demon emperor ran wild inside her, causing her great pain. Her whole body turned crimson, and a terrifying power surged, as if it was about to explode. "Leave it to me." Changsheng woke up from his cultivation and saw this scene. His eyebrows slightly furrowed as he approached and whispered, the best solution to this situation was naturally dual cultivation. Not only could it calm the berserk bloodline, but it could also further elevate Ruyu's transformation. Soon after receiving Changsheng's permission, Ryu let out a painful cry. Boom! Amidst billions of divine lights and endless radiance, a massive azure lotus emerged, rooted in chaos, exuding boundless grandeur. Within it, the power of black and white circulated, interpreting the myriad of origins. The two forces continued to grow stronger. At the same time, in the vast sea god domain far away from the Chaos Kun divine domain, a fierce battle was taking place among several peak great saints. Roar! A crisp dragon roar resounded, shaking the boundless sea and countless spatial dimensions, causing the infinite void to tremble. Boom! Among them, a silver dragon was stained with blood, severely injured while fighting against several powerful members of the sea race emitting terrifying auras. How dare you! Do you know that I am the saintess of the sea god palace? How dare you lay hands on me? That a captivating voice came from the mouth of the silver dragon. It was pleasant to the ears, a girl's voice, but it contained anger and immense fury. Boom! In response to her, several incredibly powerful attacks almost tore her dragon body apart. In the end, she was forced to tear open the void and escape to another divine domain, precisely the Chaos Kun divine domain. Grand.